You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories. Chapter 535, Su Yu's Plans 1. Chapter 535, Chapter 146 Su Yu's Plans 1. After the monthly exam ended, Su Yu did not forget to collect his merit points. Merit points. It was the same lady from last time who saw Su Yu. She said in a strange manner, second place in the God language competition, obtained 35 merit points. Third place in the monthly exam, 8 merit points, 3 merit points for the class monitor, 3 merit points for the superior class allowance, a total of 49 points. Student Su Yu, right? Su Yu nodded. Of course, Hu Qiusheng also compensated him with 20 merit points, but that was not included in it. Help me see how many merit points I have accumulated. 149 points. Su Yu nodded. It was not bad. He did not get first place in the monthly exam, so it was not considered to be less than 150 points. This time, he gained a total of 69 merit points. Originally, he still had 2,670 merit points left, but now it was 2,739 merit points. I haven't gotten the 5 elements race blood essence yet. Su Yu muttered. If he could get his hands on the willpower cultivation method, that would be the best. Otherwise, with his willpower, it would always be a weakness. Perhaps his body was in the air, but his willpower was still spinning in the air. There's also dragon silkworm blood essence. Xia Huyo seems to have helped me collect a drop. Let's see how it works first. He still had quite a lot of essence blood on his side, and Xia Huyo had helped him collect some. Su Yu had also seen the dragon silkworm essence blood, but it was only a drop. He first activated his martial technique to take a look. Perhaps it might not be suitable for him. It would be a waste if he bought too much. Wentan Research Center. When Su Yu returned, it was already dark. Ever since he moved here, he no longer returned to the nature garden. Before he entered the door, his communication device rang. Brother Su, you told me this morning that you have something to say. When he heard Hu Zongqi's voice, Su Yu could not help but pat his head. He had almost forgotten about it. Thinking of this, Su Yu smiled and said, Zongqi, I was just about to call you. Do you have time now? Yes. How about this? There's a red restaurant in Yingxin district. I'll treat you to dinner tonight. Let's meet later to chat. Why are you being so polite? Hu Zongqi laughed. Su Yu hurriedly said, let's talk about something more important. Zongqi, don't be so polite with me. Alright, see you later. After hanging up the call with Hu Zongqi, Su Yu entered the research center. After pondering for a while, he entered the warehouse and took a few things. More than half an hour later. On the second floor of Shenghong restaurant. Zongqi, you actually arrived before me. I'm so sorry. Don't. Hu Zongqi was no longer as proud as before. He smiled and said, let's not stand on ceremony. Thank you for giving me face today. I'll treat you tonight. How can I? You look down on me. Su Yu smiled and exchanged a few polite words with Hu Zongqi before the two entered the private room. After chatting for a while, Hu Zongqi could not help but ask curiously, Brother Su. Don't stand on ceremony. Just call me by my name. Su Yu waved his hand and interrupted him. He smiled and said, we are brothers. Our fate is not shallow. It's not good to be too polite. We can also be considered not to have fought and not to have known each other. There was some misunderstanding before, but now it has been resolved. Then I won't stand on ceremony. Hu Zongqi nodded and asked, Su Yu, do you need my help with something? Just say what you want to say. To be honest, I don't have a good temper and I'm not very capable, but I'm a loyal person. Su Yu did not take these words seriously. After a moment of silence, Su Yu said, Zongqi, I have some understanding of you. Your family's strength in the academy is not considered strong. Only your second grandfather is a Lingyun realm powerhouse and an intermediate researcher. But he's not from our academy, right? Hu Zongqi nodded and did not say anything more. Your brother, Hu Zongyu, is at the second layer of the 10,000 stone realm. His recuperation rate is more than 90%. He is ranked 65th on the top 100 list. He is the vice president of the Qianshui Association, right? Hu Zongqi frowned slightly. Su Yu smiled and said, "Don't be angry. Everyone knows about this information. Zongqi, to be honest, your situation is better than mine. But, do you think the Hu family will give priority to you or your brother?" Hu Zongqi did not say anything. "I don't have any other meaning." Su Yu said softly, "I just think that it's too difficult for people like us. In the academy, every step is difficult. Father doesn't love, grandmother doesn't love. If you want to become stronger, you can only rely on yourself." Hu Zongqi looked at him and said in a low voice, "Su Yu, speak your mind. There's no need to keep us waiting." "All right." Su Yu said, "Then I'll speak quickly. In the academy, there are a lot of associations in this association and that association. Are they useful? If they treat all the new members like leeks, other than giving them face, what other practical benefits are there?" "What you mean is, I want to secretly set up a mutual aid association." Su Yu said bluntly, "Help each other and progress together. Of course, we're just new students. We won't publicize it to the public, and we won't openly recruit people either. Only when we see each other and can play together and have the desire to become stronger can we join." Su Yu said solemnly, "One hero has 3 gangs. In the academy, if you fight alone, no matter how talented you are, what can you do? Only by forming your own small circle and small group can there be people willing to fight side by side with you even when you're in the sky and entering the heavenly battlefield. After completing some missions, you will be able to find some rest-assured teammates, and you won't have to worry about being stabbed in the back." Hu Zongqi looked at him, and his gaze changed for a moment. He slowly said, "Why me? My strength isn't strong, and my talent is still passable, but I'm only above average." Su Yu smiled and said, "In our clique, if there are people who want to enter, of course, everyone has their own advantages and benefits. Being able to bring help to everyone, and helping each other, that's the key." You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories. Chapter 536, Su Yu's Plans, Monthly Subscription 2. Chapter 536, Chapter 146 Su Yu's Plans, Monthly Subscription 2. Your brother is the vice president of the Qianshui Association, and your second grandpa is the vice president of the mission office. We haven't carried out the mission yet, but what about the future? Su Yu said seriously, "Help us to intercept some missions. Those with high merit rewards and those who spend less time. These are all within the rules, right? As for me, my uncle master is the curator of the library pavilion. There are some things that I need to open up some back doors and give more advice. It's better than fighting alone." Hu Zongqi did not say anything. Su Yu continued, "Moreover, everyone can share their resources to a limited extent." After saying that, Su Yu took out a copy of the article of will that he had just taken out. This is a copy of the article of will that is written in the soaring tier. It's not a good thing, but I still have a lot of it. I bought it myself. I used it once and read it a few times. I haven't exhausted my willpower yet. It can be used again. Su Yu smiled. But I don't want to sell it. People like us have our own cultivation style and methods. We often buy some essays of will on our own. We don't go to public lectures, the resources required are too much. Do you have enough merit points? Su Yu looked at him and said, "Do you have enough merit points? You haven't reached Qianjun yet. Have you prepared the foundation establishment essence blood? Are you prepared to use the worst? Have your family prepared the essay of will for martial techniques for you? Hu Zongqi was silent. Relying on the family to support you, can you really get up? Hu Zongqi took a deep breath. Su Yu, let me put it this way. I can provide you with very little. The more you take out, the more worried I am. Because my talent is not as good as yours and my strength is not as good as yours, in the end, I am the one dragging you down. This way, this group will collapse. Smart person. Su Yu nodded, he smiled and said, I know. However, if you improve together, you will go further on the path of becoming stronger. I'm just afraid that you don't have the motivation and confidence. Each of us is in a different circle. You have your own circle. Just as you said, your brother and Lu He have a good relationship. Then, he can provide me with some important information. Intelligence and the like. Su Yu continued, let's just say that the Divine Literature Department has always been targeting me, but I can't fit into their circle. You can do it. Su Yu smiled and said, in this era, if you don't think of ways to make yourself stronger and don't seize the opportunity yourself, do you expect others to give you alms and pity you? Hu Zongqi looked at him for a long time, then smiled and said, I suddenly feel that you are not so simple and honest. Su Yu could not help but laugh. It's fine as long as I don't intend to harm others. As a person, I have to leave some leeway for myself. Otherwise, if I'm seen through by others, won't I lose all my privacy? That's true. Hu Zongqi nodded and looked at him. Apart from me, is there anyone else? There is, but I won't tell you now. Su Yu said seriously, our circle is just a small circle. At the moment, I can communicate with them. When everyone is strong and feels the help that each other's existence brings to everyone, then we will truly understand each other and know each other's existence. Otherwise, it will be meaningless. Hu Zongqi nodded. Su Yu, there are quite a number of such circles within the academy. But in the end, they all became ordinary people and gradually lost contact with each other. The circle no longer exists. I can't say for sure whether the association you mentioned will be able to exist in the end. Su Yu nodded, he smiled and said, understood. So, I will work hard to maintain it so that everyone can feel the benefits, and confidence. For example, I'll try to get everyone to read the text of will that they've used before. Of course, I won't let anyone suffer. Su Yu said seriously, for example, if you can read the text of will that's written by someone in the soaring tier 3 times, then what you take out will definitely match what you get. I won't reveal who reads your text of will and whose text of will you get. Keep it a secret to the best of your ability. Hu Zongqi nodded and said softly, actually, there are such groups in the academy as well. However, many times, they are disbanded. Some of the guild masters take advantage of them to enrich themselves. It's unfair and they squeeze the members. Su Yu smiled and said, then let's give it a try. I will find someone to be responsible for some evaluation work. The value will be clear and clear. The value of the information you provide will also be open and transparent. After saying that, Su Yu said seductively, and for me to improve so quickly, actually. There are some secrets. My teacher has mastered some high-level race cultivation techniques, which can speed up my cultivation. Hu Zongqi's face changed. Elder Honggu researched it. Su Yu smiled and said, I don't know. I only know that my teacher has provided me with some modified cultivation techniques to speed up my cultivation. Let's put it this way, I have a peak expert of the 8th level of the mountain and sea realm behind me. Therefore, I feel that I will bring everyone as much benefits as anyone else. Then, the secret technique that you passed on. Don't worry, I will naturally get my teacher's approval and won't reveal your existence. We are all newbies and don't have much status and say much, but I believe that after a few years, everyone will be free and we can get involved in many things in the academy. Su Yu said in a low voice, do you want to be your brother's vassal for the rest of your life? The Hu family values your brother, not you. Don't you want to overtake him on the top 100 list? Hu Zongqi's eyes lit up slightly. Very quickly, he smiled and said, Su Yu, don't make a big cake for me. To be honest, I don't have much confidence in this association. You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories. Chapter 537, Su Yu's Plans, Monthly Subscription Request 3. Chapter 537, Chapter 146 Su Yu's Plans, Monthly Subscription Request. Su Yu smiled. Alright, then I'll give you something for free as a membership gift. I believe you'll be satisfied. What? Su Yu took out a secret manual and opened the atlas. He said, Pure Essence Technique. It's the basic essence technique of the Bright Bird clan, a modification. It's suitable for us humans to cultivate. There aren't many openings that need to be opened, and it's used to purify Yuan Qi. If we use blood essence to cultivate, there are more or less some impurities that don't exist. It's very difficult to enter 10,000 stones. If you cultivate the essence cleansing technique, you'll soon be able to purify the Yuan Qi in your body. You've seen my situation. I've cultivated the essence cleansing technique, so there won't be any future problems, even though I've consumed a large amount of blood essence. Su Yu's eyes were burning as he said, you only need to open 36 apertures to cultivate the pure origin technique. Opening an aperture is a little difficult, and you still need to open 36 more apertures. However, once you've learned it, you'll be able to cultivate all the way to the 9th level of the 10,000 stones realm, and your physical body will be able to soar into the sky. It's only a top-tier yellow-grade cultivation technique, but this thing is only available in our lineage. If word gets out and it's made public, it shouldn't be difficult to collect a few hundred merit points from you, right? Hu Zongqi's eyes instantly lit up. Looking at Su Yu, he was somewhat in disbelief. You gave it to me. It's not allowed to be spread out. Su Yu said in a deep voice, the pure origin technique is also available in the academy, but it's not suitable for human cultivation. It was my lineage that spent a great deal of effort to transform it. If it's spread out, my grandmaster will not let it go. As he said that, Su Yu smiled and said, of course, I believe that everyone has their own ideas. If you really want to spread it, we'll only do it this time. There won't be a next time. The future is in our hands. Su Yu continued, this is only a supportive cultivation method. There will even be other cultivation methods, martial techniques, and even willpower cultivation methods in the future. Su Yu took a deep breath and said, I also need to raise my strength and strive for more say. Hu Zongqi's hand was pressing on the manual. It was clearly written by hand. In fact, it did not form a system. However, there were many illustrations that explained which acupoints were opened, how they were connected, and how they were connected. This was a cultivation technique that had been converted. It was auxiliary and extremely precious. Purifying Yuan Qi. Hu Zongqi did not take it away. He kept pressing it and fell into a struggle. If he took it, then he would really be on the ship. He could not retreat. At that time, the multi-divine pros faction would come looking for him in the name of stealing a secret cultivation technique. He would be finished. Su Yu. Hu Zongqi looked at him and said through gritted teeth, I have not shown my value yet. This thing, you keep it for me. When I show my value, you can give it to me. It's for you. Su Yu smiled and said, a gift for joining the society. To put it bluntly, this thing, our research center doesn't lack it. Otherwise, why do you think so many people are coveting our research center? My grandmaster is dedicated to research and doesn't care about anything else. He just wants to research the innate skills of the human race. Many things have been ignored and sealed by him. Little did he know that these things are priceless. In his eyes, They are all junk. Elder Hong. At this moment, Hu Zongqi's face was filled with yearning. Hong Tan. A pillar of the divine literature faction. Peak 8th level of the Mountain Sea realm. He was obsessed with research and didn't fight for power and benefits. He only cared about research. Wen Tan Research Center. Any random cultivation technique would be an extremely precious method to purify Yuan Qi. The human race definitely had such a cultivation technique. However, it was not something that a small figure like him could obtain. It might be passed down in some family clans or in the descendants of some experts, but if it was made public, it would depend on luck. Perhaps they had higher authority and status and might obtain it, but it was impossible now. Hu Zongqi swallowed his saliva and said in admiration, a figure like Elder Hong. A true civilized master. I believe that one day, if the Wen Tan Research Center were to be open to the public, it would definitely shake the hearts of people. Shake the human race. Su Yu also said in admiration, definitely. I also believe that Grandmaster will shock the entire human race. Unfortunately. Sigh. Grandmaster's ambition is not here. His goal is the sun and moon, eternal. To be more realistic, once he enters the eternal, these things can only be passed on to ensure that they are ours. Now. It's hard to say. Hu Zongqi nodded. With some anticipation, he said, Elder Honggu has long been at the peak of the 8th level of the Mountain and Sea realm. Do you think he will enter the sun and moon soon? Hard to say. Su Yu shook his head. I don't know about that. I haven't met my Grandmaster yet. Zongqi, to be honest, the fact that I've established the Mutual Aid Association now also has some meaning for my future plans. The School of Multiple Divine Arts has been suppressed all these years. I'm not convinced. It's fine if you're weak, but if you're strong, I must seek justice. It's useless if there are fewer people. Even if I become a mountain and sea, the school doesn't lack mountains and seas. However, one mountain and sea is useless. What about 2, 3, and 4? Su Yu's eyes were bright as he said, you, me, and the others, everyone will improve together and enter the mountains and seas. When that time comes, will you help me? The moment these words were said, Hu Zongqi said seriously, if I benefit from Brother Su, then when the time comes, if I don't repay your kindness, how different will I be from a beast? I'll take this pure origin technique. From today onwards, I'll be a member of the association. I still have a few pieces of writings of will over at my side. I've read them before and didn't gain much. If Brother Su needs them, I'll bring them over later. You're right. We all have our own secrets and don't wish for others to know about them. This includes sketching out some divine writings and not wanting others to know about it. As long as Brother Su keeps it a secret, I believe that we'll gain even more. You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories. Chapter 538, Su Yu's Plans 4. Chapter 538, Chapter 146, Su Yu's Plans 4. Su Yu laughed. Hu Zongqi continued, after today, I will collect more information regarding the single god language and other aspects. This includes the various battlefields. After all, my second grandfather is the deputy director of the mission office and knows a lot of things. I will go there often to take a look. Alright, I will find someone to calculate the value of these things later. Su Yu waved his hand and stopped him. The foundation of an association is fairness and justice. You have been giving, but you haven't gained anything. No one is a fool. Why should you give? If you have a good mission, why should you share it? If you have a good secret technique, why should I give it to you? Everyone gives, and everyone gains. That is the long-term solution. Hu Zongqi nodded. What he said was absolutely right. Su Yu continued, in the future, I will think of a way to contact some people outside of the academy, such as those from Zhanjiang College. Everyone should advance in multiple directions at the same time. We should share our blood essence, literary soldiers, cultivation techniques, martial techniques, and the text of will. This way, our progress will definitely be faster. Hu Zongqi looked at him calmly. Su Yu was really ambitious. He realized that he had really underestimated Su Yu before. A fellow from the Southern Yuan family actually thought so far ahead and dared to do it. Of course, he also had a backer behind him. It had to be said that no one's success was unexpected. Thinking of this, Hu Zongqi suddenly said, Su Yu, after hearing what you said, I actually remembered something. In the future, if you have anything you need, you don't have to look for Xia Huyo. You can try to hang up a mission. I'll help you hang it up. Through my second grandfather's channel, no one knows that it's you who needs it. Only I know. The price might be cheaper. Su Yu's eyes lit up. Actually, he was also thinking of a problem. Too many transactions with Xia Huyo, trading for too long, and it was too unsafe. Xia Huyo would be able to grasp many of his things. Although Xia Huyo did not pose any threat to him, there were still some things that needed to be kept secret. A mission from the academy? Yes, if it is handed down in this form, there will be some researchers who will do the mission. As long as they pay the corresponding merit points, it will be fine. Su Yu was delighted. He had found the right person to look for Hu Zongqi. Hu Youhui's strength wasn't too strong, but he was already at the 7th level of Lingyun. As the deputy director of the mission agency, his position could only be said to be average. However, it would be of great use to the current Su Yu. Thinking of this, Su Yu suddenly said, if I arrange a mission to send something to the heavenly battlefield and find the demon suppression army, can it be done? Of course. Hu Zongqi smiled and said, you want to send something to your father. This was very simple. The teachers of the academy could go to the heavenly battlefield, so it was not difficult to send something to the heavenly battlefield. As for finding the person, it could be done with some effort. However, it would probably cost a lot of merit points to make a trip there. After all, it was not very safe there. Moreover, there is no need to worry about the problem of embezzlement. They are all researchers of the academy. Unless they do not want to stay in the human race, no one will dare to do so. Su Yu was overjoyed. This was good. If he had enough money, he could still support his father. His father was too unstable in the heavenly battlefield. While they were talking, Hu Zongqi smiled and said, if you have money, you can even hire a powerhouse to protect uncle in the name of the garrison civilized division. Of course, this price is very high. The garrison civilized division will take at least a year. Su Yu was tempted. How much? An early-stage soaring stage expert will cost at least 300 points a year. It's indeed a bit dangerous over there, and not the kind that can be protected forever. After all, if they go, they will have to carry out the mission themselves. I can only say that if they see it, they will do their best to protect it. Su Yu nodded. It was all right. In that case, he could try it in the future. As for now, he would have to wait a little longer. He was a spendthrift. There were only about 2,000 points left. He still had a lot of things to use. As for his father, he would release a mission to see if he could scam another big sum of money one day. After chatting with Hu Zongqi for a while, Su Yu had some gains. I heard from my second grandfather that head prefect Zhou Mingren hasn't been in charge for a long time. His goal is to enter the Sun-Moon realm. Right now, the one in charge of the single divine language department is his disciple, Elder Zheng Yuming. Elder Zheng actually has some hatred for the multiple divine languages department. Why? I heard that back when he was a student, he was suppressed by the multiple divine languages department. There were even geniuses from the multiple divine languages department who humiliated him. Hu Zongqi explained, so, a few years ago, you guys were actually a little better. Now, you're getting more and more sad. You even have the intention to kill them all. It's because Elder Zheng advanced to the mountain and sea realm and became the branch master. Su Yu frowned. My teacher didn't say that. After all, we're still weak. Hu Zongqi shook his head. It's useless even if we know. Also, do you know Xia Yuan? My second grandfather said that the purpose of the single Divine One department this time is to get rid of Director Chen, Zhou Pingxing to become the director, and Xia Yuan to become the deputy director. It seems that Xia Yuan wants to use the academy as a stepping stone to enter the upper echelons of the great Xia Manor. The meaning behind these words was actually not very clear to the two of them. However, Su Yu could not help but frown. In other words, the fact that his senior sister had been defeated in the top 100 might not be solely because of the single Divine One faction. I understand. Thank you very much. There's no need to be so polite. Hu Zongqi smiled and said, I should be thanking you instead. In the future, I will pay more attention to these news. Experts related to Duo Shenwen usually wouldn't know about this. Those people wouldn't say such things in front of them. But my second grandfather. Strictly speaking, he has a good relationship with them. You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories. Chapter 539, Su Yu's Plan 5. Chapter 539, Chapter 146 Su Yu's Plan 5. Su Yu nodded slightly. It was easy to see that your brother and Lu He had a good relationship, so he was naturally close to Shan Shenwen. Su Yu did not spend much energy on a pure element formula book. He simply sorted out the positions of the opened acupoints, how to open them and how to connect them. This was not too difficult for Su Yu. 36 openings wasn't a small number. It all depended on how Hu Zongqi cultivated himself. Opening a few more openings didn't bring any harm. It was just that he couldn't directly use his blood essence to cultivate like Su Yu. He had to open them successfully before he could purify them. This was also one of Su Yu's methods. He slowly transformed some of the cultivation techniques in the atlas. Of course, he couldn't do it now. He was too weak. For example, the body strengthening technique of the mountain-breaking ox clan. This was much more important and precious than the pure origin technique. If it spread, it would attract a lot of attention, and Su Yu wouldn't be able to handle it. After all, the pure origin technique was only an auxiliary cultivation technique. Even if Hu Zongqi was really unreliable, if it spread, it wouldn't pose much of a threat to Su Yu. After all, there was an expert of the 8th level of the mountain and sea realm standing behind him. As for that grandmaster, he would wait until he found out. From Bai Feng's words, he should be quite easy to talk to. He would just take the blame first. After bidding farewell to Hu Zongqi, Su Yu also reminded everyone to maintain a normal relationship in the academy. They were too close, and Su Yu was still worried that the single divine text department would be on guard against Hu Zongqi. Hu Zongqi. Lin Yao. Su Yu silently muttered in his heart. Lin Yao, find a time to pull him in. There were still a few people that he could consider, such as Xia Huyo. However, his identity as a member of the Xia family made Su Yu somewhat fearful. Once he attracted the attention of the Xia family, he might be swallowed whole. He can't be too strong than me. His family background can't be too good. It's best if he isn't valued. Otherwise, he won't lack anything. How can I rope him in? Su Yu felt that the current him knew too little about the entire academy and the entire great Xia Manor. He needed to grasp more things. Counting on his teacher, forget it. Bai Feng was a dead otaku. Even if he was talented and strong, he didn't have many good friends. Even in such a huge academy, no one would stand up for him when he was bullied. Grandmaster is also a dead otaku. Su Yu muttered in his heart. If not for this, how could the school of multiple divine languages be in such a miserable state? 8th level of the mountain and sea realm. There shouldn't be many schools that were this strong, right? Yet, he was in such a miserable state. It was just a research center, yet people were still eyeing it. It was too miserable. He couldn't stand it anymore. Uncle Master's position as the head of the library was about to be taken away, yet no one seemed to care. He was also at the 9th level of the Lingyun realm, yet no one made a sound. Uncle Master was also a big otaku. He stayed in the library all day long, never leaving the main door. Who else would he bully if he didn't bully him? It's hard for two fists to fight four hands. At least there are people who are cheering for you. Suyu muttered in his heart. Even if those people weren't strong, it was still quite a force for them to stand out together. Grandmaster and the others were all stupid. You are so noble, who would be willing to pay attention to you? It's not like you are invincible in this world. Even if you are invincible, you can't make the decision by yourself. Suyu thought silently. If the academy were to expel him one day, he would raise his voice and hundreds of thousands of students and teachers would stand up to oppose him. Even the myriad sage wouldn't dare to rashly expel him, right? Lu Wenyan Laoshi would be expelled. Suyu was afraid that this would happen again. Develop quietly and build a network of connections. As long as everyone becomes a community of interests, everyone will be one. The so-called faction is nothing. However, at this moment, he was too weak. He could only pull a tiger's skin first. Grand teacher probably wouldn't care, and teacher wouldn't care either. You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories. Chapter 540, Breaking Mountains and Seas, Suppressing the Sun and the Moon, Jean Woody, 20,000. Chapter 540, Chapter 147, Breaking Mountains and Seas, Suppressing the Sun and the Moon, Jean Woody 1. Research Center. Suyu opened up Mountain and Sea Search for Hidden Invitation. It was a very long character. Suyu read it for a while and enjoyed it. He had to admit that his grandmaster's handwriting was pretty good. At least it was much better than Baifeng's. His willpower entered, but there was nothing unusual. He could only feel that the handwriting was heavy and had a simple and unsophisticated feel to it. This was the handwriting left behind by the Shanghai realm. As for the rest, there was nothing. Is there really a martial technique? Suyu was a little shocked. Even Hong Tan had not discovered anything unusual after so many years. This meant that if there really was something, it was definitely written by the sun, moon, or even an eternal expert. At least it was much stronger than Grandmaster's. A drop of dragon silkworm essence blood appeared in his hand. Suyu took a deep breath and dripped a drop onto the scroll. Once the essence blood entered the scroll, his vision changed. Suyu was in a daze for a moment. When he opened his eyes again, he was no longer where he was. His surroundings were empty. In the next moment, a person suddenly appeared in front of him. It was a tall man. The man looked to be in his 40s or 50s. His gaze was a little dull, but when he saw Suyu, his eyes quickly lit up. Human. Suyu was stunned for a moment. What was this? Don't be surprised. It's just a remnant of willpower. The middle-aged man said indifferently, being able to obtain this technique is your fortuitous encounter. Previously, the one who obtained this technique was a foreign race. Is he dead? No. Ignore it. The man did not say much. He looked at Suyu and said with a heavy tone, this technique is called time. Time. Suyu was stunned. He was still confused. Was this the space of the text of will? There were actually people. Of course, there were people in the text of will, but the people in the past did not know how to speak. This person could even speak. Time, pursuing the technique of time, breaking through reincarnation, chasing the stars and chasing the moon, one step in the past, one step in the future. This bragging was too big. Suyu was speechless. Who created this cultivation technique, bragging like this? Heaven rank mid-level martial technique. 132 Enlightenment. Can break mountains and seas, can suppress the sun and the moon. Suyu listened quietly. If you continue bragging, you might be invincible. Of course you can break mountains and seas, suppress the sun and the moon, but I can't. Heaven rank mid-level martial technique. It was indeed very powerful, but it depended on who was cultivating it and what realm the person was in. This technique only has 3 levels. 44 apertures are 1 level. 1 level, destroy mountains and seas. 2 levels, suppress the sun and moon. 3 levels, invincible in battle. Suyu continued to be stunned. This was the name of the 3rd level. It was so domineering, but I was afraid that if I called out this name, I would be beaten to death. He really wanted to retort. He couldn't help but think of what Lu Wenyan had told him back then. Some invincible experts were very stupid when they were young and randomly picked names. For example, the famous, sky-splitting innumerable blades. This person had a name that wasn't inferior. After calling out this move, Suyu was really afraid of death. Mountains, seas, and the sun and moon could hammer him to death. 44 openings, complete the 1st level of cultivation, and fight across levels without any difficulty. 1,000 caddies against 10,000 stones, 10,000 stones against the sky. The middle-aged man continued to explain, and Suyu listened quietly. In the next moment, the scene before him changed again. Spots of light appeared on the middle-aged man's legs, and they were all openings. The 1st level breaks mountains and seas. The 2 legs have 44 openings, and each has its own system, 44 openings. I have studied for many years, and they are connected into a system. The middle-aged man once again bragged about himself for a while. In any case, he was very strong. After cultivating the 1st level, it was not a problem for him to fight across levels. 44 openings would do. Suyu quickly compared it and was a little happy. 20 openings and the Aries art overlap. This meant that he only needed to open 24 openings to cultivate the 1st level. As the middle-aged man spoke, Suyu suddenly felt dizzy. Willpower had been exhausted. In the next moment, Suyu's vision blurred. He realized that he was still on the same spot. And the mountain and sea invitation to seek you had returned to its original state. There was nothing strange, and his blood essence had been completely consumed. This. Suyu wanted to express his surprise, but in the next moment, he suddenly felt a splitting headache. His willpower had been exhausted too much. And at this moment, Suyu's willpower was also rapidly recovering, faintly showing signs of strengthening. Suyu was stunned. Invincible. The text of will written in the invincible realm. No wonder he had exhausted his willpower not long after reading it. Moreover, he felt that his willpower had been consumed a lot after fighting against it, but his recovery speed was also very fast. This is really strong. Suyu was delighted. This thing felt even more awesome than the fragment room. An divine text. Suyu's heart was greatly moved. Divine text, a text of will written by an invincible realm. Could he draw out a divine text? I'm afraid that I can't do it now. I'm afraid that I'll be destroyed by this divine text. Suyu suddenly muttered. Back then, when he had subdued a mountain and sea realm divine text with the word kill, he had almost lost to 2 of his divine texts. Not to mention an invincible realm. Suyu seriously suspected that a single outline would be a grade 2 divine text. Time, breaking mountains and seas. Suyu exhaled. What an awesome name. The key was that he could not break mountains and seas. And the consumption is huge. Suyu was speechless. A drop of blood essence. Although it was only in the Thousand June realm, he had not looked at it for long. The blood essence of the dragon silkworm was not cheap. This item was very expensive. The cultivation technique created by the human race insisted on the activation of the blood essence of the dragon silkworm. How much hatred and hatred must there be for it to insist on killing the dragon silkworm? Could it be that the invincible creator of the cultivation technique had been beaten by the dragon silkworm? Su Yu could not help but doubt in his heart. Just as Su Yu was mumbling. Human realm. In a towering tower, at the top of the tower. You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories. Chapter 541, Breaking Mountains and Seas, Suppressing the Sun and the Moon, Invincible Jean. Chapter 541, Chapter 147, Breaking Mountains and Seas, Suppressing the Sun and the Moon, Invincible Jean 2. The two of them were playing chess and drinking tea. Suddenly, a middle-aged man looked to the south and frowned slightly. Who opened my time? The brawny man on the opposite side said in surprise, didn't you say that it was taken away by the alien race a few years ago? Since it was taken away by the alien race, what were you looking at the human realm? At the human realm. The middle-aged man said indifferently, could it be that the alien race was killed by someone? Is that why time was taken back? My poor disciple. Finally, someone has avenged him. The brawny man smiled and said, why, do you want to take it back? Forget it, just take it as a thank you gift from me. After saying that, the middle-aged man said with a faint smile, I don't know who took it away. I hope it wasn't some mediocre person who sullied my reputation. However, those who could kill the alien race were probably not weak, so they shouldn't be mediocre. As he said that, the middle-aged man said coldly, the Starry Sky Mansion is about to open again. This time, I will definitely let people enter and start a massacre for my disciple. The brawny man laughed out loud and said, all right, you are already so old. That disciple of yours is not as strong as others. Even if he is killed, there is nothing you can do. You have no way to stop this thing. As he said that, the brawny man continued, that time of yours can only be said to be average, but his name is really loud. Average? The middle-aged man snorted coldly. Do you believe that I can kick you back to 100 years ago? Hee, you can try. The muscular man said disdainfully, if you can kick me back to 100 years ago, I'll burn incense for you. The middle-aged man couldn't be bothered with him and continued playing chess. After a long while, he said, the dragon silkworm king has been hiding in its shell recently. Find an opportunity to ambush it with me. It's been hundreds of years. The muscular man said speechlessly, are you still thinking about this? Wasn't it just swallowed by it? You didn't lose out either. Humph. The middle-aged man was dissatisfied and said somewhat angrily, it dared to swallow me. Sooner or later, it will have to pay the price. The muscular man was too lazy to say anything else. He really held a grudge. It's been so many years. The dragon silkworm king is already tired of you. When it meets you, it will immediately retreat and run away, but you still continue to chase after it. Su Yu was unaware of this scene. At this moment, he was swiftly recovering his willpower. A moment later, Su Yu opened his eyes, and his face was filled with joy. His willpower seemed to have become a little stronger. It was similar to the feeling he had when he first entered the fragment chamber. Invincible. He did not know whether the other party was invincible or Sun and Moon, but since the other party dared to name him Sun and Moon Suppression and Invincible Battle, there was a high possibility that the other party was an invincible expert. Opening 24 apertures is enough, I can try. I still have quite a lot of mountain-breaking bull essence blood. Su Yu had the intention to enter the mystic realm again, and he opened his 24 apertures to cultivate the first stage of mountain-breaking sea. It should not be weak. By Dragon Silkworm Essence Blood, 5 Elemental Race Essence Blood. Suyu muttered for a while, and he had the urge to immediately cultivate it. Heaven rank cultivation technique, he really wanted to try and see just how strong it was. The current him lacked some killing techniques, and this might become his killing technique. Thank you Swan and I. Suyu was suddenly startled, and he calculated for a moment. Feeding on the 22nd, it seemed like it was past 12 o'clock now. In other words, today was the 1st of October. Fortunately, even the beginning and the end were only 10 days. Suyu heaved a sigh of relief. It was fortunate that he remembered. Otherwise, he might have to stay in the mystical realm for a few more days. If he were to come out again and forget about it again, it would be half a month and a month. It was not good to starve to death. The Water Man is in the Lingyun realm. This guy's blood essence is used by me to open the Lingyun realm Water Man Atlas. Although it was not enough for now, it would be enough in the future. Once he was in the air, he would probably be able to open the Lingyun realm Atlas. A moment later, Suyu arrived at the second underground floor. The door opened. The few demons who had been starving for many days seemed to have gotten used to it. Habit was a terrifying power. The Swan and I had a satisfied look on its face. The last time it told Suyu the news, it had taken a few more drops of Yuan Qi liquid. Now, it was living quite well. Although it took 3 more drops, logically speaking, 1 drop every 3 days was just enough for its previous appetite. But this person, wasn't he a little amnesiac? Didn't you see that those few fellows were starving to the point of exhaustion? Kid Suyu, you're here. The Swan and I was very lively and lively. It was good that it was here. It just so happened that it had run out of Yuan Qi liquid. If it did not come, it would starve as well. The Shadow, the Water Man, the Fire Crow, the White Fox, and the Diamond Mountain Ox were all awake at that moment. The Fire Crow's voice was sharp as it said, Suyu, ever since you took over this place, I obtained a drop of Yuan Qi liquid. Are you really going to starve me to death? It was too tragic. The other fellows had more or less 2 drops, but it only had 1 drop. It was really too tragic. Suyu could not be bothered with it. It was good that he could speak. It was fine. He looked at the Swan and I, he smiled and said, that's right. I've obtained that thread. There's really a cultivation technique that exists. Very good. Swan and I, you've done a meritorious deed. This time, you have 1 more drop of Yuan Qi liquid. The next time I come, I'll bring you some flesh and blood. As for the other few, do as you see fit. With that said, Suyu said happily, I've obtained the martial technique. Now, I'm just waiting to be enlightened. Once I've learned the martial technique, that enemy of mine is only at the critical juncture. I'll kill him sooner or later. The white raccoon was no longer charming this time. Its voice was no longer pure. It said weakly, Brother Suyu, give me another drop of Yuan Qi liquid. I'll use the White Raccoon clan's cultivation technique in exchange. I really don't know any human cultivation technique. I can write the White Raccoon clan's secret technique for you. Suyu rolled his eyes and said, don't play this game with me. Do you think I'm stupid? What if my willpower is mixed with some killing techniques? What if I'm killed? All of you are so strong and I'm so weak. I won't fall for it. You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories. Chapter 542, Breaking Mountains and Seas, Suppressing the Sun and the Moon, Invincible War. Chapter 542, Chapter 147, Breaking Mountains and Seas, Suppressing the Sun and the Moon, Invincible War. The White Fox wanted to cry. No way. Give me something to eat. What's the use of a drop of Yuan Qi liquid every time for more than 10 days? I'm really going to starve to death. Those guys wanted to run away before, but now. Don't mention it. Just don't starve us to death. It's too irresponsible. Bai Feng was also irresponsible in the detention area. He forgot about it every few days, but that wasn't how he forgot. Bai Feng could come 7 or 8 times a month. On average, he would come once every 4 or 5 days. Su Yu couldn't even come 3 times a month. No, he came 3 times this month. Bai Feng had given him number 4, and now it was October 1st, so he had come 3 times. He was afraid that it would be like this every time. He had promised to come once every 3 days, but it turned out to be once every 10 days. Who could take it? Shadow and Shui Ren both revealed their bodies and looked at Su Yu anxiously. D***, they didn't want to live anymore. Ling Yun couldn't take it anymore. Diamond Mountain Ox gritted his teeth and said sullenly, "Give me 20 drops of vital essence, and I'll condense a drop of blood essence for you. How about that?" Of course, it was not worth it. With the loss of blood essence, one's strength would drop. The key was that if it did not drop, one would starve to death. Without Yuan Qi liquid to replenish it, it would sooner or later turn into a skeleton. What was the use of being strong? Su Yu glanced at it and said perfunctorily, "Let's talk about it later. I can't use the soaring blood essence. You guys are so strong and you don't even have a 10,000 stone. Soaring, you want to burst me? You don't have good intentions indeed." The Diamond Mountain Ox felt wronged. F***ck, I'm strong, and you're blaming me? You're too weak, what can I do? You can sell it and buy the blood essence. The Diamond Mountain Ox said with some grievance, "I'm at the soaring realm. If I sell it, it won't be difficult for you to exchange for 10 drops of 10,000 stone realm blood essence." When Su Yu heard this, he instantly came to a realization. He could not help but look at the ox and said in surprise, "You still have such a brain." The mountain ox wanted to cry. Wasn't this basic? If I'm really stupid, how did I cultivate to the sky-bearing realm? You're stupid yourself, and you still blame me for being too smart. Su Yu did not say any more. He fed the Swan Ni 2 drops of Yuan Qi liquid, and the Swan Ni was so moved that he wanted to cry. How blissful. Compared to the other fellows, I'm really blissful. 2 drops of Yuan Qi liquid. This cultivation technique was really worth it. For more drops of Yuan Qi liquid. A heaven rank intermediate cultivation technique, for more drops of Yuan Qi liquid. Thinking about it, the Swan Ni also wanted to cry. Since when did heaven rank martial techniques become so cheap? Su Yu did not care about all this. After feeding the Yuan Qi liquid, he said with a smile, "I'll be going into closed-door cultivation recently." When these words were said, he was shocked. The few demons turned pale with fright. Seclusion. How long would he have to go into seclusion? The white fox hurriedly said, "Brother Su Yu, no, Brother Su Yu, I'll use my blood essence to exchange for Yuan Qi liquid. No, cultivation techniques and martial techniques are fine. If it really doesn't work, I'll use our clan guarding cultivation technique to exchange. If you hand it over to your academy, you'll be rewarded with thousands of merit points at the very least. If it doesn't contain the power of will, then it's just a pure cultivation technique." Su Yu rubbed his chin and said with some interest, "A cultivation technique that doesn't contain the power of will." This seemed pretty good. Even if he didn't use it, there should be a reward for handing it over to the academy, right? Did the academy have the cultivation techniques of these races? It might or might not. After thinking for a moment, Su Yu said, "Then all of you record down some cultivation techniques of the major races for me. I'll go and hand it over to the academy to take a look. If there's a reward." Su Yu paused for a moment before saying, "How about this, the academy will reward me with 100 merit points, and I'll give you an additional drop of Yuan Qi liquid. If there's no reward for me, I'm sorry, my yuan qi liquid did not come from a strong wind. The few great demons were filled with helplessness and despair. This bastard, is the yuan qi liquid yours? One had to say. Su Yu's move was ruthless. Hand it over to the academy. Without the text of will, even if there was a scheme, without willpower mixed in, Su Yu himself would not cultivate, so how could he scheme against him? The shadow said faintly, the human race has fought with us for many years. You have most of the cultivation techniques. Even if you hand them over, there might not be any rewards. We also know what 100 merit points represent. The civilized academy would not give you so much. Su Yu smiled and said, is that so? Then write more. Even if they have some, wouldn't it be even better if you added in your own understanding? The understanding of our own people is deeper than ours, right? If you want to scam someone, just don't scam me. The Institute has a large amount of mountains and seas. If you have the confidence, go scam them to cultivate. The great demons once again fell into despair. Of course, was it that easy to scam someone in the mountain and sea realm? Su Yu smiled and said, do you agree? If you agree, then write it down. After you write it down, I'll send it to the academy to exchange for a reward. Coincidentally, I don't have any money. After exchanging it for money, I'll buy food for all of you. The few great demons looked at each other and after a long while. The white raccoon whined, right, I'll write. Brother Su Yu, I've written it down. Since you've exchanged for a reward, you must give me a few drops of yuan qi liquid. I really can't hold on any longer. My strength is inferior to them to begin with. Su Yu smiled and said, all right. Don't worry, I'm not a liar. I'm just a little forgetful. I don't have any other shortcomings. The moment he said that, the few demons nodded at the same time. Right, you're forgetful. The big ones often forget to feed us. Sooner or later, a few of them will starve to death. As Su Yu said that, he thought of something and looked at the waterman. Number 1, can your 5 elements race cultivate willpower since young? The Aquaman fell silent when he heard this. Why? Could it be a secret? The Aquaman's voice was gentle as he said, you can say that. However, we are a little different from the human race. In fact, we don't have any acupoints. The cultivation techniques we cultivate are also completely different from yours. Even if you have obtained the cultivation techniques, you will not be able to cultivate them. You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories. Chapter 543, Breaking Mountains and Seas, Suppressing the Sun and the Moon, Jean Woody 4. Chapter 543, Chapter 147, Breaking Mountains and Seas, Suppressing the Sun and the Moon, Jean Woody 4. No acupuncture points. Su Yu was stunned. Shui Ren said faintly, that's right, we are 5-element spirit transformation, or rather, we have acupuncture points all over our body. Even we don't know what acupuncture points our cultivation method has opened. Even if you humans have it, no matter how long you study it, you won't be able to convert it into your cultivation method. Su Yu's heart moved slightly. Others might not be able to do it, but the Atlas could. He felt that there was no problem with the Atlas. Before humans soared into the sky, their willpower could only be cultivated passively. Just like the physical body, the Yuan opening realm was also a passive cultivation, not an active one. But back then, Su Yu had completed the active cultivation with the help of the Atlas. Since that was the case, why couldn't willpower do it? Thinking of this, Su Yu opened his mouth and said, Number 1, can you write down the cultivation technique that you are cultivating? Let me see. Even if it is useless, it is still of great value. I will give you 1 drop of vital qi liquid. The waterman was speechless. The cultivation technique of the 5 elements race was worth 1 drop of vital qi liquid? How much did you look down on the 5 elements race? Su Yu knew what it was thinking and said casually, "It can't be cultivated. Look at the swan and I. The heaven-rank cultivation technique that it gave me can be cultivated. Of course, the value of the two is different." The aquamancer was helpless and said, "Let me think about it again." After saying that, it turned into a puddle of water and did not speak again. Su Yu did not force it. When he obtained the essence blood of the Five Elements clan, he could also open it to cultivate. However, after obtaining the original cultivation technique from the aquamancer, he could think about how to adapt it in the future. The pure origin technique that he gave Huzongchi this time was actually not a cultivation technique. It was very simple and did not form a system. It was just to tell him how to open the aperture, where to open it, and how to relate it. Of course, that was actually how a cultivation technique was. It was just that it lacked something that was deliberately mystifying. However, when the other party saw the cultivation technique that Su Yu had given him, he knew that it was created by an ignorant fellow. If he obtained it, he might not dare to cultivate it. Huzongchi did not doubt it. That was because Su Yu had really washed his acupoints, and there was actual proof. Moreover, Su Yu did not have the need to harm him. He could not give them all like this in the future. One or two of the few books were fine, but many of them had this kind of description. With one look, one could tell that this was not based on a cultivation technique. It was because Su Yu had truly circulated his acupoints that he had such an experience. This meant that these cultivation techniques had all been tried before. Who had tried them before? Hong Tan, Bai Feng, or Su Yu. This way, it would be easy for others to see some clues. Su Yu thought a lot and did not waste any time. He went out to get some paper and pen and threw them into the cage. Hurry up and write. If you want to write, then write. If you don't want to write, then forget it. Do you know the human language? It's best to write 2 copies, one in the human language and one in your own language. Just as he finished speaking, the white raccoon lamented, "Brother Su Yu, there are some cultivation techniques that cannot be written without using the language of will. There are some cultivation methods that cannot be expressed in words." Su Yu believed those words. There really was such a cultivation technique, and there were quite a few of them. Without the language of will version, one would not be able to learn it even if they obtained it. Then write something that can be written in words. Su Yu did not mind. He casually threw a drop of yuan qi over and said with a smile, "White cat, you are the most obedient. This is a reward for you." The white raccoon was overjoyed. It held the yuan qi liquid in its mouth and was so excited that it wanted to cry. It was too miserable. Once upon a time, a drop of yuan qi liquid had touched an 8th level ascendant so much. "I'll write." The white raccoon was so excited that it did not even need a pen. Its claws were extremely nimble as it wrote several cultivation techniques in a swooshing sound. "Brother, this can only be taken out after activating the divine talisman protection outside." When Su Yu heard this, his eyes widened. Who was he trying to fool? Try throwing it out. It really won't work. If you throw it out, it will explode. This kind of divine talisman protection net can only be thrown in from the outside. Su Yu thought for a moment, nodded, and did not say anything else. Very soon, Su Yu ran up. A moment later, he came down again. Holding a photo-taking jade talisman in his hand, he smiled and said, "Hold that piece of paper and stand closer to the cage. I'll take a photo of you." The white fox broke down. This fellow was really good. Obediently holding the piece of paper with his claws, Su Yu patted it a few times and nodded his head in satisfaction. Very good. I'll go to the academy and try handing it over. If there's a reward, I'll bring you delicious food next time. Swan and I had no choice but to open his mouth and say, "Su Yu, that, you promised to bring me some flesh and blood." No problem. Su Yu readily agreed and quickly left the detention area. After he left, the miserable white fox sighed and said, "No way. This Su Yu is very vigilant. He's not stupid either. If this goes on, we won't have any chance at all. If this goes on, we really won't be able to hold on." Swan and I also cursed in a low voice. "I'll give him a heaven-rank martial skill and he'll give me a few drops of Yuan Qi liquid. This business is really daring." With that said, he said somewhat frantically, "It can't go on like this. Shadow, do you have a way?" Shadow said faintly, "Yes, give him blood essence. Mix some of your willpower into it. I know that some of you guys even have the ability to be reborn from a drop of blood. As long as he's moved, there's a chance." With that said, he said, "White Fox, write more cultivation techniques for him and let him taste the sweetness. In exchange for some merits, keep him hanging step by step. Human desires are infinite. When he tastes the sweetness, he will become more and more greedy for our flesh and blood. Cultivation techniques can be photographed, but can flesh and blood also be photographed?" You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories. Chapter 544, Shattering the Mountains and Seas, Suppressing the Sun and the Moon, Invincible Jean 5. Chapter 544, Chapter 147, Shattering the Mountains and Seas, Suppressing the Sun and the Moon, Invincible Jean 5. The shadow said faintly, "He will take the bait sooner or later. Take your time. As long as he activates the divine talisman protection on the outside, we have hope of getting out." The few great demons did not make any more noise and fell into silence. In the living area, Su Yu took the image-leaving jade talisman and read through it. The white raccoon had written 3 cultivation techniques. Su Yu took a brief look and sneered. They were all useless cultivation techniques. Humans might have already obtained them. Perhaps I can give it a try. He would hand them over to the academy to see if they would be rewarded. If they were to be rewarded, this would also be a source of merit. Furthermore, if he really lacked merit in the future, he could use the picture book to forge a more important cultivation technique and hand it over. If he were to obtain a reward, he would still have an excuse. The Grandmaster had imprisoned a few great demons, so there were probably many people who knew about it. That's good too. With a few more scapegoats, it's hard to explain the origin of the cultivation technique. They were the ones who gave it to me. Su Yu did not care anymore. Activating the protective talisman, in his dreams. He was only in the Qianjun realm. These soaring clouds could easily kill him. Su Yu was not stupid. He packed his things and prepared to enter the mystic realm again. After cultivating time, I might be able to challenge the top 100. The top 100. Su Yu took a deep breath. His target was not the guy at the bottom of the top 100, but Huang Qifeng. He knew that once he entered the top 100, he would definitely be targeted by Huang Qifeng and the others. Since that was the case, he would cripple them first. The academy did not allow students to be crippled, and if they were seriously injured, they could still cultivate. This was not considered crippled. He quickly dialed a number, and Su Yu did not waste any time. Immediately, he said, "Dragon Silkworm Essence Blood, I don't care what realm it is. Give me about 100 drops immediately. Of course, if it's in the air, even a little less will do. Have you collected the 5 elements race essence blood? I want it immediately." Xia Huyo said in surprise, "You want it all in the air?" "Yes." Su Yu said, "I'm talking about Dragon Silkworm Essence blood. The rest is still 10,000 stones." "Okay." In the air, it was easy to deal with. Of course, the price was very expensive. Among the top 100 races, there were many on the battlefield. Dragon Silkworm is also one of the top 100 races. I can get you some in the air realm, but the price is not cheap. In the air realm, the deity and devil essence blood is more than 1,000 merit points per drop. If dragon silkworm is cheaper, it would cost 100 merit points per drop. So expensive? It's considered cheap. Of course, do you want the fire dolphin's blood essence? I'll sell it to you for 20 merit points. Su Yu was speechless. Why would I want this trash race's blood essence? He had taken it before, but he couldn't even open the atlas. It was trash. Then, give me 10 drops, Su Yu couldn't help but say, it's too expensive. Killing a sky-level blood essence will only reward 100 merit points. 1 drop of blood essence will cost you 100 merit points. Xia Huyu said helplessly, Big brother, killing a soaring sky will give you 100 merit points for free. Blood essence and these things were trophies. It did not say that killing a soaring sky would really only give you 100 merit points. Trophies were also merit points. Therefore, killing a soaring sky will definitely give you more than 100 merit points. Do you understand? Su Yu was speechless. Then give me 10 drops. You can get the essence blood of the 5 elemental races, right? Okay, I will send it to you later. I have collected all of them. 5 elemental races essence blood, 2 drops of gold, wood, water, fire, and earth essence blood, each 10,000 stone. 50 merit points for 1 drop. 10 drops is 500 merit points. A total of 1,500 merit points. Su Yu was depressed. He thought for a while and said, let me ask you, how much is the soaring bull essence blood? It's alright. The mountain ox belongs to the same species as the mountain ox. It has a good effect on the rising body's foundation establishment. Generally, it can't afford to buy the high-priced race blood essence. The mountain ox is also not bad. It's ranked near the top, with about 60 merit points per drop in the early stage. What about the later stage? Then it won't be cheap. About 150 merit points. I'll sell it to you. Do you want it? Xia Huyo was stunned for a moment. You're selling it to me? Where did you get this? The next moment, he seemed to understand something and said in surprise, You're not talking about your research center, are you? Yes. Stop fooling around. It's best if you don't get this on your side. The Diamond Mountain Bulls have the ability to be reborn from a drop of blood. Of course, not every bull has it. The royal families have it too. Be careful, don't mess around. Su Yu's expression changed slightly. He had such worries previously, but from the looks of it now, this ox, it really wasn't honest. It even wanted to give him his blood essence in exchange for some yuan qi liquid. Su Yu only asked this question, but he did not really plan on opening the protective talisman to receive its blood essence. Even if he wanted to, he had to bring Bai Feng along. Bai Feng had such an experience. He often peeled off his skin and pulled out his tendons to get some blood essence. Alright, I got it. Su Yu did not say anything more. Get the things ready as soon as possible. 1,500 merit points, right? Alright. Su Yu gritted his teeth. Here. Isn't it just money? Don't I have it? Throw it in. When I finish cultivating the heaven rank martial skill, I'll go and snatch it back one by one, cough, cough, fight for it back. After taking out 1,500 points, I only have 1,200 points left. I have to use it sparingly. 20,000 merit points were almost spent. However, he still had quite a bit of mountain ox essence blood and a large amount of Will's text in his hands. He could be considered a true tycoon. These items could be sold for quite a bit of money. You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories. Chapter 545, The Eve of the Storm. Chapter 545, Chapter 148, The Eve of the Storm. October 1st. The university was on vacation. The civilized university had 3 days of rest every month. After the monthly exam, the students would rest from the 1st to the 3rd, classes would officially start on the 4th, and there would be no vacation after that. The 3rd of every month was the time for the top 100 rankings to be redrawn. On this day, after the top 100 rankings were redrawn, the students would be able to challenge the top 100 students. In October, it would be 2 months before the new students entered the school. In previous years, students on the top 100 rankings would not even think about the new students at this time. This was because even if the new students wanted to challenge the top 100 rankings, they would usually start from the beginning of the second year. Moreover, there might not be anyone who could enter the top 100 rankings. But this year, the situation was different. On the 1st, Zheng Yunhui went to the top 100 building in a carefree manner. When Su Yu and the others entered the school, the captain of the guards of the Nature Conservation Garden had brought Su Yu and the others there once. At the entrance of the top 100 building, Su Yu and the others also met Jiang Mu, who was ranked 6th at that time. 6th level of 10,000 stones, the peak of nature conservation, and his true combat strength surpassed ordinary 9th level 10,000 stone realm fighters. On the 1st, Zheng Yunhui ran to the top 100 building and walked around the entrance. When he finally left, he shouted that he would enter the top 100 building in 2 days. Everyone knew what he meant. The top 100 building could only be entered by students from the top 100 rankings. The new students announced that they would be entering the top 100 building. Obviously, there would be new students entering the top 100 this month. The top 100 rankings of the various universities were the highlight of the show. The cradle of the sky, the foundation of the mountains and seas. There were so many pavilion elders in the universities, and almost everyone had entered the top 100 rankings. Those who had not entered the top 100 rankings had entered the sky, but the proportion was very small. Before the age of 30, they couldn't even make it into the top 100. Unless there was someone who was a late bloomer, there was still hope for them to make it into the sky, but there was no hope for them to become stronger. The academy, which had been quiet for several months, was once again bustling with noise. Those above the age of 30 were waiting to watch the show. Those below the age of 30 who didn't make it into the top 100 were also watching the show. The students on the top 100 were looking down on them. Every year, there was no shortage of such freshmen and such monsters. In the end, the guys who showed up first every year were very miserable. Even in the year that was as strong as Xia Yuan and the others challenged the top 100 only 3 months after they entered the school. Now, it was only 2 months. At the research center, Su Yu had also heard the news. Zheng Yunhui was very arrogant today, but it had nothing to do with Su Yu. As for Zheng Yunhui, he wasn't stupid. Su Yu wasn't worried that he would be at a disadvantage. He was at the critical stage, and with his willpower exceeding 85%, the students in the bottom 10 of the top 100 rankings might not be his match. Su Yu didn't care about this. What he cared more was that there was a rumor circulating. There might be someone from the Myriad Clan Academy who wanted to challenge the top 100 rankings. The academy was currently discussing whether to let the Myriad tribe students challenge the top 100. In Su Yu's opinion, if nothing unexpected happened, the final result would definitely be acceptable. Even the secret realm was given to the other party, so how could the top 100 not be challenged? Of course, there was still no conclusion regarding the age limit of the Myriad tribe students. After all, some races calculated their age differently from humans. At the age of 30, the other party might still be an egg. Myriad races students. Su Yu was actually looking forward to these Myriad races students coming out to challenge them. Up until now, the Myriad races students hadn't had much contact with the human students, and the other party was staying within the boundaries of the Myriad Races Academy. The first few months were the period of adaptation, and everyone was getting used to it. Now, 2 months had passed, and everyone had gotten used to everything. He wondered if the myriad race's students couldn't wait any longer. Just like him, they couldn't wait to see the strength of the old students. Principal One said that he wanted to reform the academy, and even the great Xia Manor. However, things are still as calm as before. Other than weakening the welfare of some of the old students, there seems to be no movement. Suyu couldn't help but think of some things at this moment. Before he came to the academy, he had heard from others that Wan Tianxing was preparing to reform the academy. However, until now, in Suyu's opinion, other than cutting some funds, he didn't see much movement. If this was a reform, wasn't it too much of a ruckus? It did not seem to be of much help to the academy. Not to mention the entire Great Xia Manor. This has nothing to do with me for the time being. Suyu thought to himself. He was waiting for news of Xia Huyo. After obtaining the blood essence, he would enter the mystic realm again. This might be the last time he would enter the mystic realm in the near future. He really did not have any money. Just as Suyu was waiting for Xia Huyo to enter the mystic realm again. Heart Cultivation Pavilion. In the huge meeting hall. Many pavilion elders had gathered once again. Wan Tianxing sat in the middle. At this moment, Wan Tianxing's face was slightly pale. Scenes of the sky collapsing and the earth collapsing flashed through his mind. Looking at the group of people in front of him, Wan Tianxing gradually came back to his senses. How many of these people would be left after so many years? Thinking of this, Wan Tianxing said tiredly, I know about the matter of the Myriad Race Academy. We treat everyone equally. The Myriad Race students can challenge the top 100 ranking, and their treatment will be equal to that of the human students. The elders weren't surprised. They had guessed the result. We've gathered everyone here not for such a small matter. The top 100 ranking was indeed a small matter to them. A bunch of mountain and sea realm experts holding meetings for such a small matter wasn't worth it. Wan Tianxing glanced at the pavilion elders and said softly, everyone, the Great Xia Institute of Civilization is getting more and more prosperous these years. Compared to 50 years ago, there are a lot more mountain and sea realm experts. 50 years ago, the Great Xia Institute of Civilization had 2 sun and moon realm experts and 9 mountain and sea realm experts. Now, we have a total of 36 mountain and sea realm experts. You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories. Chapter 546, The Eve of the Storm 2. Chapter 546, Chapter 148, The Eve of the Storm 2. 50 years ago, there were more than this many experts from the multiple divine languages department who died in the battle of the heavens. However, at that time, there were experts from other academies who came to help the 5th generation prefect become invincible. Back then, there were also a few sun-moon realm experts who rushed over from other big manors. 10,000 heavenly saints paused for a moment before saying, the number of mountain and sea realm experts has quadrupled. The Lingyun realm was only 30 years ago. Now, there are more than 200 people in the academy. Now, there are more than 200 people in the academy. There were only so many researchers in the civilized academy, around 500 people. But this force was extremely powerful. As for the other instructors, there were too many people in the academy. No one said a word. Wan Tianxing rubbed his forehead and said softly, but what about the sun and moon realm? After so many years, what about the sun and moon realm? There are 27 more people in the mountain and sea realm than there were in the past. Back then, there were only so few people, but 2 sun and moon were born. The 5th generation prefect was almost invincible. Now, there are more mountains and seas, but why are there no more sun and moon? Wan Tianxing sighed softly. All these years, I've been thinking and thinking. It's not just us, it's the same for other academies, even those in the Quest realm. Ever since the battle 50 years ago ended, the backbone of our civilization masters seems to have been broken. In the crowd, some people's faces were a little gloomy. 50 years ago, there were few mountains and seas, and there were not many suns and moons. But at that time, it felt even more glorious than now. Jean Woody swept across the heavens. However, ever since the 5 generations of the most important figures in the many divine texts had fallen, the civilized masters seemed to be on the decline. Even though everyone knew that there were more mountains and seas, it gave them the feeling that the civilized masters were on the decline. Beside Wan Tianxing, Deputy Prefect Xia Chongqing said softly, "Old Wan, I've gathered everyone here today. What do you want to say?" Wan Tianxing said in a deep voice, "I've used the sky-connecting mirror once." When he said this, everyone's expressions changed. Wan Tianxing said in a deep voice, "Ever since the battle 50 years ago ended, civilized masters have been on the decline. The number of sun-moon tier cultivators has decreased instead of increasing. I've looked at the past and the future, and finally, I came to a conclusion." Everyone looked at him. Wu Yuehua said impatiently, "What conclusion?" "There were 2 invincible warriors who fought with the 5th generation back then. One of them died in battle, and the other is still alive." The 10,000 heavenly saints said calmly, "That man came from the heavenly abyss tribe. This tribe specializes in curses, darkness, and death. I suspect that he did something back then." The moment he said that, Xia Chongqing immediately retorted, "Impossible. That guy may be eternal, but how could he have the ability to cause a change in the entire civilization division? Moreover, over the years, there have been civilization masters advancing to the sun and moon. It's not like there haven't been any. It can only be said that we haven't had the opportunity yet." The 10,000 heavenly saints said calmly, "Whether you believe it or not is up to you, but I have to say that I have also spoken to the Seeker realm. Looking at the past and the future, I have some speculations. It may not be just him alone, but many people are secretly working together to target us. The original 10,000 races that we obtained may have some problems." "What do you mean?" 10,000 heavenly saints frowned slightly. He slowly said, 50 years ago, those 2 ambushed the 5th generation. I don't think it was purely because they were afraid that the 5th generation would be invincible in the path of Tao. The more important goal was to cut off the inheritance of that generation's civilized masters. I suspect that some of the original that we captured after that have already been cursed. The divine runes that we successfully sketched might have problems." Myriad Heaven Sage muttered, "If this is true, then it can explain why the sun and moon were born, but the others can't. These past few years, there have been 7 new sun and moon figures. I'll check them one by one later. Have these 7 figures drawn any more divine runes in the past 50 years?" The moment these words were said, Xia Chongqing's expression also changed. "You mean to say that there are problems with the original texts that we have obtained in the past 50 years? All the divine runes that we have drawn have curses, so we have no way of advancing to the sun and moon." Wan Tianxing exhaled and said, "A guess. But I'm somewhat certain that it might be true. If that's the case, civilized masters will be in big trouble." "Impossible." One of the pavilion elders in the crowd said in shock, "We've captured countless original copies. Could it be that they've placed curses on every original copy? This was impossible. How much manpower, material resources, and energy would that require?" This was how they had set up this monstrous situation. Myriad Sage said slowly, "I also think that it's impossible, but, who said that we have to use all of the originals?" Myriad Sage said self-deprecatingly, "Do we still need to use all of the originals? As long as the Protoss and the demon races, powerful races, cast curses on the originals, that would be enough. We humans, geniuses, mainly draw out the divine runes of these 2 races. Non-geniuses have no hope of advancing to the next level." When these words left his mouth, everyone immediately faltered and became flustered. If this was really true. "Everyone, please calm down." Wan Tianxing raised his hand and said seriously, "I'm just guessing, it might not be true. If that's the case, killing many of our civilization's sun, moon, and mountains and seas 50 years ago was not an accident, but a conspiracy. A conspiracy. The purpose was not to stop the fifth generation from attaining the Tao, but to cut off the inheritance of that generation of civilized masters. Later, even if the civilized masters cultivated the mountains and seas, they would not be able to attain the sun and moon, because there might be a problem with their original use. Wu Yuehua also felt her mouth dry. 50 years ago, they were still weak. At that time, they would definitely continue to outline the divine language. The divine language of the god and demon race was very powerful. Almost all the pavilion elders present had already outlined it. The divine language of the earlier years had long been used up and destroyed. You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories. Chapter 547, The Eve of the Storm 3. Chapter 547, Chapter 148, The Eve of the Storm. Naturally, they were all newly obtained originals. Everyone fell into silence. After a long while, Xia Chongqing opened his mouth and said, "Did the quest boundary give a reply?" Today, Zhou Mingren wasn't around, so he went into seclusion. Xia Chongqing was the only deputy prefect who had rushed over, so he had no choice but to ask clearly. Wan Tianxing shook his head, "No. They might also be investigating to see if this was really the case. If the news is true, then we will be in big trouble. Could it be that they want everyone to destroy their own divine runes? If too many divine runes were destroyed, even their own will would be shaken. If the divine runes that have been nurtured for so many years are destroyed, are civilized masters still civilized masters?" 10,000 heavenly saints was also very helpless. He sighed and said, "I hope it's fake. Moreover, if it's true, then the battle 50 years ago was not an accident. It was a trap. The 10,000 races paid a huge price, even at the price of eternal life, to destroy our civilized master inheritance." Everyone had a headache. They hoped that it was fake. If it was true, didn't that mean that they had no hope of advancing to the sun and moon realm? All of this still needed to wait for the quest realm to reply. "Don't leak the news." Wan Tianxing looked at everyone and said, "You are all pavilion elders of the mountains and seas. Don't say anything to the outside world, lest you cause a huge change. Once the news spread, it could very well cause a series of trouble." Wan Tianxing called out and said, "So now I suspect that the root of this curse is that fellow from the Heavenly Abyss tribe. If we kill him, will everything be settled?" Everyone was helpless. Xia Chongqing also sighed. "He disappeared 50 years ago. I heard that he was injured quite badly back then. Now, he's sleeping somewhere. If we can't find him, no matter how many invincible humans there are, we can't do anything to him." Wan Tianxing nodded. He spoke again. "The purpose of what I'm saying today is not to make everyone panic. I want everyone to help me conduct an experiment. You have many students and disciples. I hope that from today onwards, some of you will specialize in the divine language of the human race, and some of you will specialize in the divine language of the non-gods and demons." As soon as he finished speaking, someone objected. "No one can achieve the eternal divine language by cultivating the divine language of the human race or the divine language of the weak race. Therefore, even if you cultivate it, you won't be able to ascend to the sun and moon. There's no way to make a comparison." "That's right. Moreover, if they cultivate the weak race's divine language, their strength will decrease instead. At that time, not to mention the sun and moon, even Shanhai and Ling Yun wouldn't be a match for anyone else. The civilized master would really be useless." Everyone spoke one after another. They felt that Wan Tianxing was taking things too seriously. These weak races' divine language had no chance of becoming eternal. Wan Tianxing seemed to have known that they would object. Suddenly, he said, "Actually, I was thinking that if we cultivate more divine texts, the divine texts will fuse and form a divine text battle technique. If we cultivate some weak race's divine texts or humans' divine texts, do we have any hope of using the entire divine text battle technique to become eternal divine texts? Wan Tianxing said seriously, if we cultivate only one divine text, the divine texts that we cultivate will all be scattered. Even if it becomes a system, it won't become a battle technique. Moreover, in order for the divine runes alone to be strong, they have to cultivate the divine runes of strong races. As for the multi-divine runes alone, they can use the multi-divine runes to solve the weak problem of the weak divine runes. Zheng Yiming, who had been silent all this while, suddenly said, Principal, do you mean to support the multi-divine runes alone? Just for these speculations, an illusory possibility? And then, using a large amount of resources, it is possible to cultivate a few mediocre talents who are unable to advance. The so-called divine literature battle technique was originally a fusion of multiple divine writings, so how could it become one? This was something that even the fifth-generation prefect couldn't do. 10,000 heavenly saints fell silent. Zheng Yiming said again, other people might not say, but Hong Tan can be considered talented, right? He has cultivated the divine literature battle technique for many years. Ask him, now that he has destroyed the divine writings of the gods and demons, how much strength does he still have? Can he fuse the divine runes and battle techniques into one and upgrade them into eternal divine runes? 10,000 heavenly saints was silent for a moment. After a moment, he said, let's give it a try. Didn't the multi-divine runes department recruit a new student this year? It seems that they have yet to outline the divine runes of the gods and demons. Let's wait and see how he is doing. I will communicate with Chen Yong and Bai Feng and try to ask him not to outline the divine runes of the gods and demons. The moment these words were said, Wu Yuehua frowned and said, Principal, once he fails, this student will be crippled. I know this Su Yu. He's very talented. For the sake of your guess, we'll use him as an experiment. If we don't let him draw the divine language of the celestial race, don't tell me we'll only let him draw the divine language of the human race and the divine language of the weak race. Then, it'll be a joke if he's invincible in the same level as the multiple divine languages. Wan Tianxing said in a deep voice, someone has to give it a try. We can consult his own opinion. If he doesn't agree, then we'll think of a way to find another person to give it a try. If that doesn't work, we'll have Wan Mingzi abolish the existing divine language and try the multiple divine languages. Everyone frowned. Zheng Yiming didn't say anything this time. It was a good thing to let Su Yu sketch out the divine language of the human race and the other weak race. It was highly likely that he would be crippled just like that. It didn't matter if Su Yu didn't agree. Since there was no way to prove that the battle techniques of the multiple divine runes had advanced to eternity as a whole, it wasn't worth it to invest too much into the multiple divine runes. Wu Yuehua wanted to say something but hesitated. She thought for a moment and didn't say anything else. Forget it, I'll ask him later. Since Su Yu didn't agree, no one could force him. No one could care less about what divine runes he drew himself. Also, the library pavilion. Myriad Heaven Sage pondered for a moment. He said, I'll make a count of how many clans there were 50 years ago. It would be best if they were from 60 years ago. I'm worried that they might have some sort of plan in advance. In the future, some geniuses would better use these originals to draw out the divine text. You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories. Chapter 548, The Eve of the Storm 4. Chapter 548, Chapter 148, The Eve of the Storm 4. Many people thought of something when they heard this. There were still a lot of ancient originals. If there was really a problem with the later originals, would they be able to avoid all of this with these ancient originals? Zheng Yiming's eyes flickered. He said, if the news is true, then the value of these ancient originals will increase greatly. The library pavilion will become the top priority, and it will not lose out to the secret realm region. After all, Chen Yong is only Ling Yun. Mansion master, I think. Wan Tiansheng waved his hand. He said lightly, we'll talk about that later. On Chen Yong's side, he passed the year-end assessment, and the curator is still him. Don't forget that the ancient books in the library pavilion were left behind by the previous generations of powerhouses. At that time, the academy was still under the school of multiple divine languages. Zheng Yiming frowned and said, the academy belongs to the entire human race, the entire Great Xia Manor, and all of us. Just because the previous person in charge was under the multiple divine languages department, you can't say that the academy belongs to them, right? Wan Tianxing said impatiently, I said, everything will be done according to the rules. If the rules are there, then we'll do it according to the rules. Banning the multiple divine languages department is the rule. If the single divine languages department is strong, then it's the rule. Even if Qin Yong doesn't become the curator, there are still rules. Pavilion Elder Zheng, if you don't follow the rules. Do you want Hong Tan to spar with you? When these words left his mouth, Zheng Yiming's face flushed red, and he was instantly speechless. Hong Tan was at the peak of the 8th level of the mountain and sea realm. Even his master, Zhou Mingren, didn't have the confidence to suppress him, so how could he have the ability to challenge Hong Tan? Wan Tianxing stood up, everyone, do as you see fit. I've already told you the news. If there are some people who wish to destroy their own divine inscriptions, you can give it a try. However, I suggest that even if you want to destroy your own divine inscriptions, you shouldn't do it in the academy. Instead, go to the celestial battlefield and use the divine inscriptions that you don't want to use. Kill a few experts and destroy your divine inscriptions. It will still be of some value. In addition, from today onwards, all the original records of the myriad clans from 50 years ago in the library must be recorded and cannot be misappropriated. All students and teachers who need to observe the original records must accumulate merit points accordingly. Lastly, everyone should think of a way to gather information on the invincible expert of the Heavenly Abyss tribe. Also, you should pay attention to the other invincible experts who specialize in curses. After saying a few words, the myriad heaven sage walked out. When he reached the entrance, he suddenly turned around and said, fighting is fighting, fighting is fighting. The intention of the academy is to allow you to grow through fighting, not to allow you to cripple each other in the midst of fighting. You use it, I'll use it. In the end, without the rules, the mountains and seas will be massacred. That would be a complete mess. There are some things that I don't care about, but that doesn't mean that I don't know. Rules. As long as you follow the rules, I can ignore them. If anyone dares to violate the rules again, don't blame me for being merciless. With that, the myriad heaven sage left. The hall was silent. The myriad heaven sage liked to talk about rules. Everyone knew that within the rules, he didn't care about what you did. If you exceeded the rules, it would be easy to anger him. To anger an expert who had reached the peak of the mountain and sea realm decades ago, how many people in the academy could bear that? Wu Yuehua also stood up. She swept a glance at Zheng Yiming, sneered, and turned to leave. Zheng Yiming didn't say anything. He stood up and left silently. Rules. The rules of the 10,000 heavenly saints. Also, that battle 50 years ago, was there really a problem with the divine script? If there was a problem, then the civilized masters would be in big trouble. Who could guarantee that after 50 years, they would use the original and not use the later divine script? It was fine if they didn't major in divine script, but they could destroy it themselves. If they major in divine script, could they destroy it too? That would be big trouble. They wouldn't support the quest realm. Otherwise, after destroying countless mountains, seas, and Ling Yun, the strength of the human race would instantly drop by 30%. The multi-god language, is it going to be revived? Zheng Yiming fell into deep thought. Could the multi-god language's god language battle techniques counteract this effect? Battle technique wall. Innate blood essence. Library. Zheng Yiming repeated these words in his heart. Also, if these God-language inheritances left behind by the previous generation of experts were really useful, they weren't drawn out later, but left behind in the past. These divine inscriptions can certainly ascend to the sun, moon, and eternity. If I really want to destroy the divine inscriptions and replace them with these divine inscriptions. Letting out a light sigh, Zheng Yiming left the heart cultivation pavilion. At the same time, Suyu obtained the 5 Elements clan's blood essence, as well as the dragon silkworm's blood essence. Bringing along his own text of will, blood essence, and the time martial technique, he walked towards the secret realm zone. He had successfully broken through mountains and seas in one fell swoop. Only in this way could he have the hope of competing with those monstrous geniuses who had cultivated many years more than him. He could kill his way into the top 100 and become the new generation of experts in the academy. As for the future of a civilized master, what did it have to do with him? The current him was not even a civilized master. The moment Suyu walked into the mystic realm zone and appeared at the entrance of the Yuan Qi mystic realm, the faces of the 2 old men, Huang and Nye, turned purple. How many days has it been? Why is it here again? You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories. Chapter 549, The Mystery Land closes again 1. Chapter 549, Chapter 149 The Mystery Land closes again 1. Chapter 147 is wrong. Time opens 44 times each time. It has been revised. A large group of readers, like me, are taught math by PE teachers. Vitality Mystery Land Hut. The 2 old men were speechless. This kid came 4 times in a month. Can't you take a break? Wasn't he already at the critical moment? Could it be that he was preparing to break through to the 10,000 stone realm immediately? Suyu, the Yuan Qi in your acupuncture points is mixed. If you continue to break through, it will be very difficult for your acupuncture points to become one once you reach the 10,000 stone realm. They will repel each other. Even if you enter the 10,000 stone realm for a period of time, it will still be ugly if you are stuck at the first level of the 10,000 stone realm. Furthermore, it will affect your future advancement. Elder Huang still reminded him. He cursed by Feng in his heart. This teacher of his was too much of a fraud. He did not care about this. It was not that they did not want Suyu to break through, but Yuan Qi was so mixed. If he really advanced to the 10,000 stone realm, Suyu might only be able to merge his 2 apertures into one, becoming the weakest 2-stone warrior. Even if his willpower entered the sky and reforged his body, it would still be very troublesome. For the 10,000 stone realm with 2 apertures into one, even if his body was forged into the sky, his body would still be much weaker than the others. Suyu revealed a smile that was more sincere. Elder Huang was kind-hearted, so Suyu hurriedly said, "Teacher Huang, I know what to do. I know what to do. The Yuan Qi in my apertures is no longer mixed. It can still be considered pure." Elder Huang was speechless. "Kid, you have already opened 108 apertures. I saw it last time. It's a mess. If you don't spend half a year to purify it, I don't think you can even dream of entering the myriad stone realm. Why do you need to pursue some short-term speed to affect your future?" Elder Nie also said plainly, cultivation is about endurance. Winning first may not necessarily win. Are you in a hurry to think of the top 100? That thing, so what if you don't go? It really isn't. Suyu said embarrassedly, "Teachers, I'm not the kind of person who doesn't know his limits." "There's no one here, right?" The 2 looked at him. Elder Huang said unhappily, "Nonsense, the 3 of us aren't people." Cough cough, "Teacher, what I mean is that other than us, there's no one else, right?" "No." Just as Elder Huang finished speaking, his eyes widened. The Suyu in front of him suddenly turned into a figure of light. The acupuncture points all over his body flickered with a dazzling light. Each acupuncture point was like stars that dotted the starry sky. Elder Huang's eyes widened and his mouth widened. Are you F***king kidding me? Last time, I saw with my own eyes that your 108 acupuncture points were filled with mixed yuan qi. In these few days, you told me that you purified your acupuncture points to this extent. Elder Nie also crushed the teapot in his hand. This was the teapot he had bought for Hong Tan. He had always treated it as a treasure. Now that it was crushed by him, he did not even notice it. The two of them looked at Su Yu with extremely strange eyes. What was going on? They had originally thought that they would not be shocked by Su Yu's abnormal behavior, but today, he had shocked them the moment he arrived. Su Yu, this. Su Yu smiled foolishly and said, Teachers, I said that my yuan qi is very pure. The two of them looked at him in a daze. F***ck, was this called pure? This was called flawless. The key is, how did you do it? Elder Huang stared at him for a while. When he retracted his gaze, his eyes were burning as he asked, how did you do it? As he said that, he quickly said, knowing is a secret. Can you spend money to buy it? Give it a try too. Elder Nie coughed dryly. Elder Huang did not think much of it. He stared at Su Yu and said, the effect is too good. It's only been a few days, and you've already completed the purification. Su Yu chuckled and said, Teacher, this is a secret of the multi-god literature department. Why don't you join the multi-god literature department? Elder Huang was speechless. Join your head. Your multi-god literature department is a big pit. You would rather die than join. Say it or not. Elder Huang muttered and quickly said, you must have a secret. What do you mean by a secret of the multi-god literature department? **T. By phone that kid has been here so many times, and I still don't know him. What secret is there? Forget it. As he said that, he paused, he smiled and said, Su Yu, does the divine literature department accept outside help? It's the kind that only takes money and doesn't work. Why don't you talk to your teacher and Uncle Master, and then we can call in outside help. How about you tell us a little secret? Su Yu was speechless. This grandpa really dared to think. I want to do this too. Where can I find one? Can you introduce me to one? Do you guys accept external help from the single divine language department? If I do, I'll go over and get some resources to cultivate. Thinking of this, Su Yu asked curiously, Teacher Huang, which department do you and Teacher Nya belong to? U.S. Elder Huang chuckled. We belong to a department that has nothing to do. What sect or not? What does it have to do with us? Elder Nie and I cultivated in a muddle-headed manner. Back then, when the Divine Literature faction was in charge of the academy, the Divine Literature faction wasn't independent yet. We just muddled along until we reached Ling Yun. The rest was simple. When we reached Ling Yun, I didn't care about the faction. Can you let me enter the mountains and seas? If I enter, I'll join you. If I can't, let's not talk about the faction. We'll do what we do and don't harass us. Teachers, what are your strengths? Elder Huang smiled and said, you want to know? This is a secret. How about we change the secret? Su Yu laughed dryly. Forget it, I won't ask anymore. He was just a little curious as to why the two Ling Yun were guarding the secret realm here. Yes, the secret realm was very important. But these two weren't weak, right? They had been guarding the secret realm all this while. After all, this was a school. Could it be that there were still people who dared to barge into the secret realm? Elder Huang saw his expression and knew what he was thinking. He chuckled and said, what? Are you looking down on the job of guarding the secret realm? No matter how many people fought for it, they couldn't get it. It was only because Elder Nie and I were strong enough to defeat countless competitors that we managed to get this position. You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories. Chapter 550, Mystic Realm Closed Again 2. Chapter 550, Chapter 149 Mystic Realm Closed Again 2. Elder Huang smiled brightly and was in a very good mood. Kid, this is a Yuan Qi mystic realm. Here, there is no lack of Yuan Qi, just absorb it as you wish. What is a Yuan Qi mystic realm? It is formed from eternal divine culture. Here, we can study it every day and fiddle with the divine runes of the Sun-Moon realm every day. Cough cough. Elder Nie coughed dryly and interrupted him. Elder Huang instantly came to a realization and said with a dry smile, I'm just joking, how is that possible? We love this position and contribute to the academy. It's impossible for us to study the divine runes of the Sun-Moon realm in private. Su Yu also broke into laughter. He understood in his heart. In that case, this was really a good position. There was no lack of Yuan Qi, and he could often study the eternal divine runes of the Sun-Moon realm inheritance. Thinking of this, Su Yu thought of another question. Teachers, why is the divine prose of Sun and Moon realm heritage eternal divine prose? What about eternal realm? Eternal realm? Elder Huang said in surprise, didn't Bai Feng say? There are no eternal realm civilized masters. Su Yu was stunned. What did he mean? Weren't there many invincible realms in the quest realm? Wasn't invincibility eternal? Why did he say that there were no eternal realm civilized masters? Didn't he say that the 5th generation prefect was about to step into the eternal realm? How did it disappear all of a sudden? Elder Huang looked at him and knew that he really didn't know. He explained, are you asking about the quest realm? There are actually many undefeatable realms, and there are also many civilized masters, but all of them are undefeatable when their physical bodies advance. He explained, the foundation of a civilized master is the advancement of willpower, not the advancement of the physical body. Civilized masters. There really is no existence that relies on willpower to advance to undefeatable. Most of them are after entering the peak of the sun and moon, polishing their physical bodies, and relying on their physical bodies to advance to undefeatable. As he said that, he continued, so in reality, there are no civilized masters at the eternal realm. Of course, the old monsters in the quest realm are all civilized masters. Back then, they also reached the peak of the sun and moon realm. After that, they polished their physical bodies and advanced their physical bodies. They can also be regarded as the invincible realm experts among civilized masters. Su Yu blinked and couldn't help but ask, so, the path of civilized masters is to reach the peak of the sun and moon realm? Yes. Elder Huang nodded and said, the 5th generation had actually had a chance of advancing. In fact, he had to take the path of a civilized master to advance. Otherwise, if his physical body had advanced, he might have already succeeded. What a pity. He sighed and felt a little regretful. Su Yu was even more shocked. Our civilized master actually doesn't have the existence of the invincible realm? Is it so fraudulent? Teacher, is that civilized master still valuable? Of course. Elder Huang said unhappily, why is it not valuable? Old monsters of the quest realm, aren't they on the path of civilized masters? Moreover, after their physical bodies have advanced, their strength is even stronger than those old ghosts of the War God Hall. After saying this, Elder Huang said again, there may be some limitations to the advancement of willpower to invincible realm. All these years, the quest realm has actually been researching. An expert in the Seeker realm once said that it might be related to the development of the Sea of Will. The human race might be lacking something important, causing the Sea of Will to be incomplete. Su Yu blinked. Lacking something? What was it? Divine runes? Or, innate divine runes? Su Yu was shocked. It couldn't be. In that case, it shouldn't be to that extent. His teacher had been researching this for the past few days, and Su Yu had heard it many times. The human race might have a divine text, the kind that was naturally hidden in the sea of will. Teacher, lacks something, lacks what? Old Huang said speechlessly, how would I know? If I knew, I would be invincible. Anyway, the path of a civilized master, when one reaches the peak of the sun and moon realm, one usually has to upgrade their physical body. However, don't be depressed. Even if their physical body is upgraded, we are still stronger than those warriors. Su Yu nodded. He was still in shock. There was something lacking, there were no true unrivaled realm civilized masters. They were all civilized masters who changed their cultivation at the peak of the sun and moon realm. That was why the main divine prose of the sun and moon realm was called the eternal divine prose. That was because, there was no eternal divine prose. What was lacking? He couldn't help but make a connection. What exactly was Bifome researching right now? Why did he suddenly feel, that he was extremely high and mighty, that he was extremely important? Did the human race really exist with innate divine runes? What was missing from the sea of will, and what wasn't discovered by others, was it something like this? If. Su Yu was a little frightened. If, then once the results of the research were out, there wouldn't be any problems, right? Had his teacher thought of this problem before? It's hard to say. With teacher's personality, he might not even know about this. Seeing that he was in a daze, Elder Huang coughed and said, Su Yu, what are you thinking about? Nothing. Su Yu hurriedly replied. Very quickly, he smiled sheepishly and said, I was thinking that the 5th generation head is really impressive. Back then, he almost became the first true eternal civilized master. Of course. Elder Huang sighed. That's really impressive. You haven't experienced it before, so you don't understand. At that time, the 5th generation head said that all the great academies in the human realm would gather civilized masters from the clouds. The 5th generation head said that he was about to attain the Tao, so the top civilized masters from all the great academies came to protect him. You have to know that all the great academies are not subordinate to each other. You asked the Wan Manor head to lead the Great Zhou Civilization Academy, but the Great Zhou Civilization Academy's head paid attention to him. Elder Huang joked, it's already not bad if you don't beat him up randomly. But the 5th chief has really brought the Great Xia Civilization Academy to its peak. You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories. Chapter 551, Arcane Realm Closed Again 3. Chapter 551, Chapter 149 Arcane Realm Closed Again. Elder Nie said faintly, it also brought the polytheistic literature faction to a desperate situation. Elder Huang suddenly felt a little depressed. That's right, it also brought the polytheistic literature faction to a desperate situation. With a single word, the 4 corners of the world followed. One after another, the polytheistic literature faction experts traveled through mountains and rivers, disregarding obstacles, and came to protect his path. They were invincible in battle, and they killed an invincible. In the end, they ended up in such a situation. The peak was him, and the decline was also him. The polytheistic literature faction had completely declined after 5 generations. Su Yu's heart was also surging, and he couldn't help but whisper, the polytheistic literature faction was once so glorious, killing an unrivaled expert. This proves that this path isn't a dead end. Why? Why did they have to suffer such treatment? Elder Huang said somewhat dejectedly, blame yourselves. Who asked you to have fewer and fewer experts later on? In the past few decades, the experts of your faction have gradually fallen and become fewer and fewer. A few years ago, after the sun and moon of the Daming Prefecture fell, your faction of multi-divine literature didn't even have a sun and moon. The faction of multi-divine literature was severely injured 50 years ago. After all these years, there was no successor. The few remaining sun and moon had also fallen one after another. Now, the strongest was Hong Tan. Unfortunately, Hong Tan had been obsessed with research these years. The multi-god text sect didn't have any leading figures. They were like a pile of loose sand. Gradually, there was no sound. The experts that were born later didn't advance to the sun and moon realm. And the single-god text sect had a few sun and moon realm experts in the past. Some of the mountain and sea realm experts in the past had also advanced to the sun and moon realm. They were like the sun in the sky. How could they not suppress you and not have a place to live? Suyu was silent for a while before he said hesitantly, "Teacher, back then, when the fifth-generation prefect attained the Tao, didn't the single divine prose faction experts protect him? Why were all the experts from the multiple divine prose faction dead?" "Yes, but not many." Elder Huang explained, "You can't blame others for this. The fifth generation is more arrogant." He felt that the sun and moon of the single divine prose faction was not as good as the mountains and seas of the multiple divine prose faction, and he was also trying his best to promote the fusion of multiple divine prose instead of the Tao of the single divine prose faction. Therefore, he did not have a good relationship with the experts from the single divine prose faction back then. Suyu smiled bitterly. It seemed that this great grandmaster was also someone who had his nose in the air. He looked down on others. Now that those people whom you looked down on had become experts, it was hard for US juniors. Suyu was too lazy to delve into the dispute from decades ago. Now, he knew more and more about what had happened back then. In general, it could be said that it was a karmic cycle. However, Suyu also knew that the fifth generation did not care about the single divine text. Even if they did not care about it, they did not deliberately suppress it. It was still a little different from now. Now, if the single divine text did not suppress the multi-divine text, Suyu would not hold any grudges. He would just let the multi-divine text develop on its own. Whether it should exist or not, it was their own business. But now, some things were even more excessive than before. After chatting with the two elders for a while, Suyu was ready to enter. Elder Huang said bluntly, "Why don't you enter from the Thousand Stone area? You can also avoid leaving on your own." Suyu laughed dryly and said, "No, I'm still Qianjun. I'll just walk from Qianjun area. Stop fooling around. I'm Qianjun. I'm not going to enter from the Thousand Stone area. I'll have to spend more money, and I'll also need to accumulate 200 merit points." He won't do it. "I'm Qianjun, I'm the real deal." Elder Huang said unhappily, "If you come out earlier, you'll feel like you've lost a lot. 100 merit points, you can stay for a few days. How long are you prepared to cultivate this time? Are you really prepared to break through the 10,000 stone realm?" "No." Suyu shook his head and said, 10,000 stones, I still feel that it's not enough. I want to open some more apertures and cultivate some martial techniques. Otherwise, I think I won't be able to compete with those guys." As he said that, Suyu looked at Elder Huang and said, "Teacher, you said last time that after entering the mystic realm, the main benefits are actually related to willpower and divine runes. But last time, I sensed it and didn't find anything. Go comprehend it yourself." Elder Huang did not remind him and exhorted, "The Yuan Qi mystic realm mainly consists of the Yuan characters. Absorbing the Yuan into the body and absorbing the Yuan into one. Look at the 10,000 races, comprehending the divine runes and seeing the divine runes comprehending the divine runes, are actually the same." What did he mean? Suyu fell into deep thought. Elder Nie glanced at Elder Huang and was speechless. "Why don't you just say it directly and make it divine?" Seeing that Suyu was still thinking, Elder Nie said faintly, "What are you still thinking about?" "The so-called Yuan Qi mystic realm's main body is the Yuan character. Comprehending the divine text is the same as comprehending the text of the will. You don't have to comprehend it from the text of the will. Actually, it's just copying a yuan divine text. Of course, this was left behind by a sun-moon realm. It's too powerful. You actually don't have the qualifications to comprehend it. Elder Huang is just deliberately dangling you. Elder Huang said unhappily, "Why are you calling it dangling him? This is an eternal divine text. If this kid really outlines it, he will be able to benefit endlessly." Su Yu gave up completely. Forget it, I can't even draw out the divine prose of another race. But, the eternal divine prose. If I can really duplicate it, smash it, and feed it with other divine prose, won't it taste different? Will my divine prose become stronger? Forget it, I won't think about it anymore. Su Yu paid 100 merit points and entered the secret realm. At this moment, he was already so poor that he was jingling. 300 drops of mountain-breaking ox blood essence at the mid-late stage of 10,000 stones, 400 drops of other types of blood essence, 10 drops of dragon silkworm blood essence at the soaring realm, and 10 drops of 5 elemental race blood essence. Apart from that, Su Yu also bought some other things. He also bought 100 drops of bright bird blood essence. The main reason was to purify his acupuncture points after cultivating, and he spent another 800 merit points. You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories. Chapter 552, Mystic Realm closed again for. Chapter 552, Chapter 149 Mystic Realm closed again for. After spending all the points, including the 100 merit points he had just paid to enter the Mystic Realm. At this moment, Su Yu still had 339 merit points left. Last night, he thought that he still had more than 1,000 points, but in the end, he realized that he did not buy the bright bird blood essence, so he spent a large sum of money all of a sudden. More than 800 drops of all kinds of blood essence. Su Yu did not care about it anymore. He would talk about it after he had opened his aperture. After opening another 24 apertures, he had opened 142 apertures in total, including the 9 apertures of Yuan opening and the 1 aperture of Thunder Essence Blade. Compared to the amount of Yuan Qi stored, it was not inferior to cultivating a top heaven rank cultivation technique. Even a top heaven rank cultivation technique could only open 144 apertures. Of course, there might be some differences in explosive power, but the endurance was comparable. Inside the mystical realm. Su Yu was quite familiar with the way to enter the mystical realm again. He had entered it 4 times. From the 1st of last month to the 1st of this month, it had been exactly 1 month. This time, Su Yu had walked a little further. After a few times, he knew where there were the least people, and newbies usually wouldn't go there. This time, he still had to open time to cultivate, and he couldn't be discovered. The further the better. Su Yu found a place to sit down cross-legged. He took out all of his things and a portion of the text of will. Same old rules, open your mind first. The first level of time broke through mountains and seas. There were 44 openings, and 20 of them overlapped with the War God technique. This meant that this powerhouse who created this cultivation method was very likely to have relied on the War God technique as a foundation. He created this technique. What Su Yu needed to open was the other 24. Su Yu looked around and saw that no one was there. He took out the dragon silkworm essence blood and dripped a drop into the text of Time's will. The next moment, the scene reappeared. At this moment, outside the secret realm. In the small house, Elder Huang and Elder Nye suddenly looked at the door that allowed people to enter, and the door trembled slightly. Elder Huang's gaze changed slightly as he looked at Elder Nie. The two of them nodded at the same time. In the next moment, a mirror appeared. Yuan Qi Mirror. Used to observe the Yuan Qi mystic realm. The Yuan Qi mirror that suddenly appeared at this moment was not to spy on Su Yu. The Yuan Qi mystic realm was somewhat abnormal just now. The moment the Yuan Qi mirror appeared, an incomparably huge speck of light instantly appeared. Elder Huang frowned slightly. He could not help but curse in a low voice, "This bastard brat, where did he get this thing? Is it at the Sun-Moon realm or Eternal realm?" *CK, I forgot to remind him that when experts repel each other, the Yuan character won't repel him, right? Don't crush it for him. The two instantly understood when they saw the huge speck of light. Su Yu, this little bastard, had opened an extremely high-level cultivation technique inheritance inside. It should not be a civilized master's, but a warrior's path. Otherwise, the conflict would be even greater. A civilized master's mystic realm might very well clash with a Yuan Qi mystic realm. This involved some space overlapping and folding issues. Elder Nie also rubbed his forehead, not knowing whether to laugh or cry. He was somewhat helpless and shocked. Where did he get it? Don't tell me it's a gift from Baifeng. That kid, Baifeng, doesn't even have it himself, right? As he spoke, Elder Nie waved his hand, and the mystical realm cottage closed. Outside the door, a student who was just about to enter had a dazed look on his face. The researcher who came with him was also dazed for a moment before shouting, "Old Huang, old Nie, what are you doing? I'm not opening the door today. I'm not in a good mood." This researcher wanted to curse. "Are you targeting me?" "Yes, I'm targeting you. So what if you don't open the door? Can't you rest for a day? Can't you take a break? If you have the ability, then forcefully barge in." "Me?" The researcher was furious. "Damn it, a few days ago, I brought my people here, and you guys were also on break. I was thinking of coming back in a few days, but today is a break again. You two old bastards have gone too far. This is clearly targeting me. Just you wait." This researcher was extremely angry. He brought his students away while he went to complain. These two old geezers were giving him a vacation every now and then. Was there any justice left? In the mystic realm's small house, Elder Huang and Elder Nie looked at each other before looking at the huge light spot in the Yuan Qi mirror. The two of them had an incomparable headache. Elder Huang said helplessly, "I say, this kid is the source of trouble. Nothing good happens every time he comes. I never expected him to have such a thing. The next time he brings us an eternal divine text, it will burst the Yuan Qi mystic realm. What do you think we should do?" Elder Nie also said helplessly, "When he comes out, remind him. Don't mess around for us. I don't know where he got it, but it's at least a cultivation technique inherited from a Sun-Moon realm. When he said he wanted to cultivate a martial technique, I thought he was cultivating Heaven Splitter. So it's this thing." Although they didn't know the details, the two of them were very knowledgeable. Soon, they knew that Su Yu had at least grasped a cultivation technique passed down from a Sun-Moon realm cultivator. Perhaps it was even more powerful. Heaven realm? The possibility was very high. Old Huang's eyes suddenly moved. This kid just brought a bunch of things. I think I saw something familiar. Why did he bring that thing? What? Hong Tan's favorite post. Mountain and sea looking for you post. Yes. Old Nya and he looked at each other. A moment later, the two of them suddenly chuckled and then laughed maniacally. Hong Tan was blinded. The possibility was too high. The inheritance Su Yu obtained was very likely from that post. As for Hong Tan, if he discovered it, the two of them could stand on their heads. As for that idiot Baifeng, he definitely hadn't discovered it. Otherwise, he wouldn't have sold it. That fellow Su Yu was too lucky. Both of them were shrewd and experienced people. In the blink of an eye, they had guessed a lot of things. Hong Tan definitely hadn't discovered it. Otherwise, this thing wouldn't have been placed so casually. The two of them laughed wildly for a while. Elder Huang was overjoyed. No, I have to write it down. When I see Hong Tan later, I have to say a few more words and praise him for writing this post so well. I've admired it for decades. Ha ha ha, no, I have to laugh for a while longer. Elder Nie couldn't hold back his laughter either, and he said, don't say that. If Hong Tan knew about it, it wouldn't be good for us to be taken as his punching bag. As for Su Yu, that brat. Elder Nie thought for a moment and said, everyone has their own fortuitous encounter. However, if it's really a powerful cultivation technique, forget it, he can't make the decision. The one who inherited it might not be gone, and it's not Su Yu's turn to make the decision whether it's made public or not. Elder Huang nodded his head in agreement. It wasn't necessarily true that the one who passed down the legacy cultivation technique might still be alive. Such a thing wasn't uncommon either. Some geniuses also had such opportunities. It was best not to have any designs on such a cultivation technique. If things really got out of hand, and the one who passed down the legacy was still alive, then there would be a good show to watch. It wasn't as if such a thing hadn't happened before. In the past, a genius had obtained a heaven-tier cultivation technique, and it was fine for him to cultivate it himself. Later on, in order to earn more merit points, he had directly handed it over. He wanted to collect some merit points, so he directly made the cultivation technique public. Not long after, a sun and moon came knocking on his door. It was fine if he cultivated it himself, but if he passed it down, it would only depend on a fortuitous encounter. Perhaps there would be another fortuitous encounter in the future. But in the end, you publicized it. This was that person's secret cultivation technique. Not only did the master and disciple relationship disappear, but that genius even had the acupoints of that cultivation technique crippled. Thinking of this, Elder Huang thought for a moment and said, when this kid comes out later, I'll give him a reminder. Don't spread it blindly without the owner's consent. It'll take a life. He's not stupid. Elder Nie said with a smile, don't worry, but a reminder will do. These little fellows have all obtained these inheritances like thieves, afraid that others will know. If we point it out directly, do you think his expression will look very good? Elder Huang laughed wickedly. It will definitely look very good. This kid has provoked us so many times. When he comes out this time, he will also provoke him. He also wants to see that fellow's shocked expression. The two old men laughed once more and closed their yuan qi mirrors. Civilized masters, who didn't have some fortuitous encounters. In other words, experts all had some fortuitous encounters. It was too difficult to become an expert just by relying on the academy's supply. When he comes out of seclusion, there will really be a good show to watch on the top 100 rankings. Such thoughts rose in the hearts of the two. This fellow had great talent and good fortuitous encounters. This was a secret that even Hong Tan hadn't discovered for decades. Yet, this fellow discovered it after getting his hands on it. If this wasn't fortuitous encounters, what else could it be? If a genius wanted to grow up, he had to have talent, hard work, and luck. 30% talent, 30% hard work, and 40% luck. At this moment, the two old men were deep in thought. They didn't know if it would be a blessing or a curse for the school of multiple divine texts to accept this kid. They had a feeling that if Hong Tan didn't come back, who knew how much he would change the next time he came back. You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories. Chapter 553, 5 Elements Formula Subscription 1. Chapter 553, Chapter 155 Elements Formula Subscription 1. In the Secret Realm. Drops of blood essence were devoured as if they were free. One by one, acupuncture points on his legs were opened. 300 drops of blood essence were all in the middle and late stage of 10,000 stones. Their effects and duration were stronger than those in the early stage of 10,000 stones. 1, 2. Acupuncture points were lit up one by one. Under the operation of the body strengthening formula, Su Yu's physical body was also strengthening. His physical body was definitely much stronger than the ordinary Qianjun 9 weights. The body strengthening technique was used to build a strong foundation. The reason why he used the mountain-breaking bull's blood essence was because it was easier to strengthen his physical body. As for Su Yu, he simply used their strong foundation, the body strengthening technique. One day and one night. When Su Yu opened all 24 apertures, he still had quite a bit of the mountain-breaking bull's blood essence. All opened. Su Yu was delighted. Opening the first level was much easier than he had imagined. It was mainly because of the text of will. This time, Su Yu clearly felt the effect of the text of will. When he opened the apertures, he had a feeling of understanding. Which aperture to open, where to open it, how to open it. It was as if it had already been opened. Now that it was blocked, he could open it again. The text of will had such an effect. Su Yu stood up and tried connecting the apertures. 44 apertures lit up. The newly opened 24 apertures did not have a smooth flow of yuan qi, so Su Yu did not mind. He just needed to use the bright bird essence blood to cleanse it later. Break! Su Yu growled as he opened the apertures on his legs and lashed out with his leg. Bam! Yuan qi exploded, forming a yuan qi vortex. Fast. Su Yu only felt one thing, his leg was extremely fast. It was like an illusion. With the lashing of his leg, his yuan qi exploded, leaving only an afterimage in the air. So fast. Su Yu was astonished. Then, he exerted strength with his right leg and jumped up. This time, he jumped extremely high. In mid-air, the yuan qi under Su Yu's feet exploded, causing him to float in the air for a short while. With another lashing of his leg, another afterimage appeared. Boom! The yuan qi exploded. Su Yu was like a child who had just learned how to walk. He was extremely delighted as he stepped into the air and continuously lashed out with his legs. Time and time again, his yuan qi was depleted and he could quickly recover completely. So strong. Su Yu did not have an opponent, but he could sense that he was very strong. Now that Jing Yunhui was in front of him, Su Yu felt that his leg could crush him. His speed was also very fast. The yuan qi in his legs exploded as Su Yu landed on the ground. With a leap, he instantly appeared 10 meters away. Shattering mountains and seas. Su Yu muttered. Although the name was silly, this martial technique was really useful. The instant his leg was sent out, there was even some phantom interference. At this moment, Su Yu had yet to discover any other effects. If there really was an enemy in front of him, the moment Su Yu sent out his leg, the other party could even feel the passage of time and the rapidly changing surroundings. This is awesome. At this moment, Su Yu could no longer hide his excitement. He stomped on the ground, soared into the air, and leaped. Kick! The sounds of explosions rang out one after another. After an unknown period of time, Su Yu suppressed his excitement and took a deep breath to look at the remaining blood essence. Mountain-breaking sea had been opened. Next, Su Yu did not plan to cultivate the second move. He planned to swallow the blood essence of the 5 elements race to see if he could get the 5 elements race's willpower cultivation method out. If he needed to open his aperture, perhaps the remaining mountain-breaking cow's blood essence could help him open some of his apertures. 10 drops of 5 elements race blood essence could open the atlas and open the cultivation method once more. As long as the cultivation method was activated, Su Yu would know how to open the apertures and cultivate. Without the 5 elements race blood essence, he could directly open his aperture and cultivate this cultivation method. Su Yu actually planned to open his aperture and cultivate the body strengthening technique himself, but the body strengthening technique required too many apertures to be opened. So much mountain ox blood essence. It might not even be enough for him to open the apertures required for the body strengthening technique. The human body's apertures are too mysterious. There are too many of them. At this moment, Suyu could not help but sigh. There were really too many of them. There were all sorts of cultivation techniques. Even if the apertures overlapped, he was constantly discovering new apertures. Just how many apertures could the human body open? If all of them were opened, it meant that in the future, there was no need to open any more apertures to cultivate any cultivation techniques. One could just cultivate directly. Just by now, I have discovered more than 200 acupoints. Suyu took a deep breath. He really wanted to open all of the acupoints in his body. That way, he would know how to use the acupoints of any cultivation technique of the myriad races as long as he circulated it once. The next time, he would not have the blood essence or the picture book. He could also cultivate it directly. The more acupoints he had, the more yuan qi he stored, and the longer he could last in battle. His explosive strength was stronger, and his adaptability was stronger. His entire body could be used as a killing weapon. Without further thought, Suyu quickly swallowed a drop of 5 elements blood essence. The picture book trembled. In the next moment, Suyu was somewhat happy. It had been opened. He had been killed by the 5 elements race. At this moment, he was very happy that he had been killed by the 5 elements race. He was grateful to the past, and he was grateful for the kindness of killing him back then. If you don't kill me, I still won't be able to open the atlas. Thank you. Water Spirit Race, 10,000 Stone Level 2. Race Skills, Water Transformation, Blood Essence Activation, Attached Water, Blood Essence Activation. Basic Text Formula, Water Element Formula, Blood Essence Activation. Suyu was slightly shocked. When he saw the newly opened page, he discovered the biggest difference, the difference of one word. Basic Origin Technique, Basic Text Technique. One had to know that even the soul-devouring bug's soul-devouring technique was also a basic origin technique. But the water spirit race was actually a basic text technique. A civilized master's cultivation technique. Suyu was overjoyed. You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories. Chapter 554, 5 Elements Text Subscription 2. Chapter 554, Chapter 155 Elements Text Subscription 2. It was true that the aquatic race actually directly cultivated text, similar to the human race's 10,000 literature classic. The key was that the human race's 10,000 literature classic could only be cultivated after soaring into the sky. Suyu was overjoyed. Without saying anything else, he directly began to devour the blood essence of the other 5 elements races. Gold Spirit Race, 3rd level of 10,000 stones. Race Skills, Soldier Transformation, Blood Essence Activation, Gold Augmentation, Blood Essence Activation. Basic Formula, Gold Line Formula, Blood Essence Activation. Following that, Suyu devoured a few more drops of blood essence. Gold, wood, water, fire, and earth, all 5 elemental formulas appeared. Let's see the effect. In his joy, Suyu couldn't wait to see the effect. Could he really train his willpower? Take the initiative to train and become stronger? After swallowing a drop of water person's blood essence and activating the water movement technique, Suyu originally thought that he would be able to open an aperture, but in the next moment, he was stunned. It wasn't an aperture. At this moment, his sea of consciousness seemed to have some changes. It seemed to be able to take the initiative to breathe. Yes, breathe. No. My sea of will also has acupuncture points. At this moment, Suyu was completely stunned. He never expected that there would be acupuncture points in his sea of will. At this moment, his sea of will was opening up some acupuncture points. These acupuncture points were absorbing some special energy and not yuan qi. Su Yu carefully sensed it. 36. At this moment, his sea of will seemed to have become a beehive, with 36 small vortexes appearing. Waves of special power, similar to the power in the fragment chamber, surged into his sea of will. His willpower was increasing. In the next moment, Su Yu suddenly cursed. F***ck. He looked at the source of the energy and had no choice but to curse. The article of will that he had placed underground had quite a bit of willpower attached to it just now, but at this moment, it was suddenly gone. F***ck, this is for absorbing willpower. Su Yu's face was full of heartache. This thing, even if it was a piece of trash that was written in the air, its effect was average, but it was still worth 100 merit points. He had only looked at it once, and the willpower attached to it was actually absorbed by him. This, right, the fragment room. Su Yu was suddenly shocked. He remembered a good place to cultivate, the fragment room. There was a huge pile of scattered willpower over there. Could it be absorbed and cultivated? Also, could it be cultivated with blood essence? Su Yu was not too sure. He swallowed a drop of mountain ox blood essence and tried to open the aperture in his sea of will. Reality proved that he was thinking too much. No way. I can only use willpower to open the aperture in my sea of will. Su Yu made a judgment. In other words, other than the blood essence of the 5 elemental races, he could only use his willpower to open the openings in this basic cultivation technique. In that case, the Wanwen Jing actually opens the openings in my sea of will as well. So I can take the initiative to absorb willpower to improve myself. Following that, Su Yu opened the other 4 race cultivation techniques one after another. Su Yu's eyes were bright. There were 5 different cultivation techniques, and each of them had opened 36 openings. Opening the Sea of Will's openings. There was a total of 180 openings. There was no overlap. The 5 cultivation techniques gave Su Yu a feeling. These 5 cultivation techniques each formed a cycle, and it seemed like they could be combined together. It was like the 5 levels of a set of cultivation techniques. A portion of the openings formed a cycle, and finally, they could be combined. If the cultivation technique is the same as the origin technique, then doesn't that mean that I have obtained a cultivation technique for the power of will that has 180 openings? Su Yu gulped. Is this for real? How many points of will can the Myriad Literature Classic open? He didn't know about this, but he could ask Bai Feng about it later. No, even if he went out and asked the 2 teachers, he would know that most of the civilized teachers in the academy cultivated the Myriad Literature Classic. However, it won't be easy for me to fuse 5 cultivation techniques into one. Opening 180 points of will is even more unbelievable. To be able to open 36 of them, it's already not bad for me to be able to absorb willpower to cultivate. At this moment, Su Yu couldn't help but feel pleasantly surprised. Other than the blood essence of the 5 elemental races, the other blood essences couldn't help him open his sea of consciousness apertures, but Su Yu wasn't too bothered by it. After returning, he knew how to open his aperture. He could just use the energy in the fragment chamber to slowly grind it open. 36 apertures. In the fragment room, would one opening in 3 days be enough? At most 3 months, he would be able to cultivate this willpower cultivation technique. If he could purchase some 5 elements race blood essence, this speed would increase greatly. Fragment room, what a good place. At this moment, Su Yu couldn't help but sigh. He realized that he had underestimated the fragment room previously. Moreover, this is only the fragment room of our research center. I heard that the library pavilion also has this place. The library pavilion must not be lost. Otherwise, it would be difficult for me to even enter. It was still alright if it was under the control of his martial uncle now. Once it was someone else, others might not allow Su Yu to enter. The original 10,000 races that were abandoned in the library pavilion were much more than the research center. The chaotic willpower there must be even more. I wonder if the others in the academy are also cultivating like this. Suyu made a judgment in his heart. The possibility was very high. If the 10,000 literature classic could also absorb willpower to cultivate, then the fragment room was actually a treasure ground. The fragment room of the library would definitely be watched by many people. Previously, Suyu felt that the others had seized the library, for the sake of those 10,000 races. Now that he thought about it, perhaps the fragment room of the library pavilion was also an important treasure ground for cultivation. No, the academy might still have a secret realm filled with willpower. Suyu muttered in his heart. This was the benefit of the academy. If you were to mingle in the outside world, could you have such a secret realm? Could you have a fragment room?